Midnights. After dark.
Would you quit embarrassing me in front of Uche?
Wow. Hey, everybody, how's it going? I will never quit embarrassing you, Tom.
I know.
It's Monday. How's it going, everybody? It's Midnight's Edge After Dark. I am, of course, your Nary Supreme, Mr. Rob Robot Shlomo, coming to you from Shabby Road Studios. Today, a new Ghostbusters trailer drops. We are a week and a half away from Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker, and it's all the fans' fault. We're just getting that out of the way right now.
Yeah, we're all just a bunch of toxic whatever, istophobes or whatever.
Hey, guilty as charged.
And as always, I'm joined by Mr. Tom Connors.
Good morning, good afternoon, good night, whatever time it is where you're at. Thank you for joining us here on Midnight's Edge After Dark. I appreciate it.
We are joined by a good friend of ours from the Facebook group, and he's been on the show before, has been on the show a while, has been busy with other stuff, Mr. Matt Weiss.
Hey, how goes it, guys?
Going fantastic. We Matt also...
Matt is our resident Ghostbuster expert from time to time.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. We also have a new face in the studio. Would you call this studio? Why the hell not?
It's Shabby Road Studios.
Well, I'm in Shabby Road Studios, the shabbiest road of them all. Why don't you introduce him, Tom?
This is Uche Noir. I'm not going to ruin your last name. How do you say it? Noir.
Waneri. Waneri. The end is silent.
Waneri. Okay, so I'm just doing it backwards. Okay, Waneri. See, I'm making it more complicated on myself than it needs to be. But yeah, Uche, of course, you may have seen on Geeks and Gamers, and he has his own channel. And of course, he is an NFL superstar, isn't that right?
Whoa, I'm an NFL offensive lineman. You know, that we're kind of categorized differently, but no, I definitely do some work on Geeks and Gamers, and I am a proud member of the Fandom Menace. So,
how would you categorize it?
So, there we go.
But no, I appreciate you having me on, man. I've been a big fan of Midnight's Edge for a while, and it feels great to be on this live broadcast with you guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
The first broadcast I got to do with Uche was with Jeremy and all those guys, and I told him, now my dad's going to understand what I do. I've talked to, all kinds of people, and he's like, who? Other than Clint Howard. He knows who Clint Howard is. But other than that, I'm like, yeah, so like you legitimized what I do. He now understands I'm on the radio, according to him, but it's still about the same.
Oh, no, man, this is awesome, dude. I'm really hyped about being on here. Mecca Random, I've known her I've watched her channel for a long time. I wouldn't say I've known her, but I'm a big fan of a lot of y'all's channels. Y'all just don't know it.
I don't think I've been on a stream with you before, but I know I've seen you on Geeks and Gamers, or we might have crossed.
I was gonna say, I thought you guys have crossed over at least once.
Maybe
something. But
maybe on
I was definitely a fan. That's what I meant by saying that I've seen her.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I see. I thought you guys may have actually worked together because she does stuff for Jeremy and stuff all the time. I don't know.
Well,
I don't.
That's
own
the thing.
her.
I mean, like if we had crossed paths on a stream, it would have been just like crossing paths on a stream, like on me leaving or
crossing
going.
the streams. Could be
Sorry.
very bad.
Sorry.
Well, speaking of,
oh no, what did I do?
No, you didn't get your intro.
your favorite YouTube harpy, she has an Emmy, an ESPY, a Bammy, a Tony, an Oscar.
Whip it.
Earl and OPE, which makes her an earlobe. She's PhD, a MDA, a DDS.
And I bet she could beat up Lisa Loeb.
Yes.
Probably. But why would you want to? She only made one little
I'm just
song,
saying.
wouldn't he?
Yeah.
No, Paul Payne's got it coming.
You say you only hear what you want to.
That song.
Can I officially sue Paul Feig for PTSD?
Yes, you can.
What did Paul do?
Mecha Random is the only one which I withdraw.
Show us on the doll where he touched you. Show us on Slimer.
Mecca, I've been seeking treatment since Feig's trailer draft since 2016, so it's a harsh one.
I think that broke all of us. That's why most of us are here. I mean,
that's where it started.
Introduced me. Yeah.
It's the nostalgia piano. Every time you hear that nostalgia piano, you're doomed.
Yeah. Well, we have a special one for Paul Feig.
Bite my shiny metal ass.
So okay,
and take it to the bank.
So where are we going to begin today, Tom? Where are we
let's start with the Ghostbusters trailer, since that's kind of what Midnight's Edge was built on. This is what we've been waiting how many years for. It's finally here, and there's no Ghostbusters in our Ghostbuster trailer.
Well, it's a teaser, to be fair. It's just
well, we got a teaser like months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a second teaser.
I will give this the credit that it deserves, that this trailer actually dropped in a time where it should drop, unlike 2016, where they dropped it not even 3 months before the July release for their initial trailer.
That's because the movie wasn't done.
Exactly. And it's just like that was a telltale sign for me too, just like, you are not gonna be good. But
I don't think anybody expected that movie to be good. It's kind of like, your worst child. You have faith in them that someday they'll do something right, but you're not surprised when they fuck everything up as usual.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. I have a little bit of a differing opinion, but I thought the trailer was all right. Thought it was good.
Oh, we were talking about the 2016 movie.
Oh, God.
But no, yeah. I mean, outside of not seeing any Ghostbusters, yeah, they got me with a few member berries. It felt like a lot of lead up to nothing, though. Like we're missing something. Like we didn't get that last gasp like we did with the Force Awakens trailer. We didn't at least get, hello, it's Uncle Ray or somebody like that. Let me in, something like that order. And, I don't expect Rick Moranis to show up, but it would have been nice to see a Ghostbuster or a familiar face to get us talking at least. I mean, I feel like they missed an opportunity here. I could be very wrong, though. That's what I said earlier.
I think they're not giving it away yet. I think they want to kind of spoon feed it a little bit here and there.
I get that, but at the same time, I feel like they missed a huge opportunity to let the normies know that the Ghostbusters are back.
I think one of the greatest, like the gasp that I think they were trying to get out of the way first is the Spangler speculation.
Yeah.
Because they, like, all these times, like, we see the spores, molten fungus, we see
Well, I feel like that was the biggest duh of the trailer. Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry.
Well, that was our Ghostbuster. Like, the trailer was all about Egon, pretty much.
I think that's where they got the technicality away, because you had McKenna Grace walking around, and she kind of looks a little bit like Egon in a way, I would say. She's got the PKE meter. She's clearly the kind of the brains of the group that we see, because she's finding the ghost trap first. And then I dug it. I really did.
Yeah, I dug the trailer. I mean, if we're talking about the new one now, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. All right, just making sure. No, I thought it was all right. And the funny thing is, I grew up and I saw both the first two Ghostbusters movies, and I mean, I wanted to be a Ghostbuster for Halloween. Like that was my thing. I wanted to be the black guy. Yeah. but no, I grew up. I enjoyed the movies. I had toys, had Ghostbuster toys. I mean, I wouldn't say I was, I kept up. Definitely not with that 2016 movie. I could care less about that one, but I've always been interested to see where they'd go. And as far beyond the time of Ghostbusters as we are now, I mean, I can dig a fresh take like this.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I mean, it's 10 times better than the last movie's trailers, and the last movie probably even is the trailer. But yeah, no, I'm just complaining because I wanted Ghostbusters.
I also get the feeling that because this is Ghost Corp's baby now, that it feels like Sony isn't doing much of the marketing, because this does not have the typical Sony Pictures marketing stink to it. It actually feels fresh, in my opinion.
Well, isn't Ivan Reitman in charge of Ghost Corp? I mean, isn't that
he and Aykroyd are pretty much the heads of that.
Okay, good.
One of them is the son of the producer of the first films, right?
Yeah. Jason Reitman's the one who's pretty much, it's his baby with this one, with like the blessing of his father, and like Ivan Reitman was on set for a lot of this. So
it's Jason was too.
Yeah, well, it's Jason was directing. That's the thing with this.
Well,
oh yeah, but yeah, he was in.
Vice versa. Like for 1984, Jason was on set with Ivan, and then now we got Ivan on set with Jason.
Yeah, this is why I think I'm a lot more easy on this than a lot of at least than Tom is, because I think this did everything it needed to do. I mean, we're setting up the new characters. Mm-hmm. I do agree, we could have a little bit more of the familiar, but I mean, if you look at it this way, the whole trailer's Egon.
Yeah, but it felt like to me like when a girl gets you all worked up and then she's like, I gotta go. Maybe next time.
That's
what it's supposed to do. It's like, oh, here, and then you're hungry for more. You're like, the next time it's gonna.
Yeah, but see, how many people though? Now that's what I'm saying though. How many normies who have no clue that the original Ghostbusters are in this movie are now just gonna be like, oh yeah, they're not gonna.
They aren't even gonna know this trailer's out. They aren't gonna know until like 6 months from now.
It's gonna be on Jumanji. Are you kidding? That's why they released it this week.
Yep,
Jumanji. Oh, Jumanji. But this, I can. One of the important things is, like I said, the normies aren't going to. Okay, listen, nobody follows this stuff closer than we do. Really. And that's not a knock against us or anybody else. That's kind of what we do. And as soon as the audience sits down for Jumanji and they see the first, they see everything. And as soon as they connect all the dots, there's going to be a new Ghostbusters? There's going to be a new Ghostbusters? And then
they're going to start looking for articles and videos, and people like us have been covering it since February. And November last year is when I started covering it. October.
And blow their whole bubble wide open. They're going to be like, oh, wow, I thought that this was going to be great until I heard these experts talk about it.
But what this does is, this teaser right here, it's bringing everybody back into the world.
Yes.
Hey, remember these guys? Yeah. Okay, there's member berries, but it's just sort of laying the groundwork. It's like, okay, they have this piece, Ecto 1, Ghost Trap, Egon's uniform, Egon's granddaughter or grandson?
The little one's the girl. See, this is I think that's why they focus so much on the kids, because of how much Stranger Things and It are for the normies.
Which is what I'm afraid of.
Well,
you want to know something?
They're gonna try and keep as many people happy as they can. I think we're gonna have a balance.
Bayona Rad says there's no more new footage in the international trailer. Okay, we're gonna have to.
Yes, there is.
Okay.
Well, nobody told me there was an international trailer all fancy in French.
Well, my question about the whole trailer is, isn't it good to kind of give them a starting point here as kids? Because if you're going to extend the franchise, you're going to, in all likelihood, if it's successful, you have a trilogy. You want to stick with the same cast. You want to have the same characters. You want to kind of keep a continuity going. So, I mean, again, like I said, I got nothing but love for the old school Ghostbusters, and I hope that they pay as much respect to it as due. But you got to have another starting point.
And this is where I feel that we're not going to get this is I need to establish this now. We're not going to get the Ghostbusters 3 we all wanted.
That's what I'm afraid of.
We're not going to.
It's not possible now, Tom. This is the best they can do now.
It is outside of not having. Here's my problem with this. And I know everybody's like, why are you so worried, blah, blah, blah. And there's a few people who are getting the same vibe I am. This is going to be the Force Awakens of Ghostbusters if they're not careful. Okay?
I don't think they'll let it be the Force Awakens.
You watch, the last shot will be one kid handing a PKE meter to fucking Bill Murray. You wait, and then he ain't going to have a line in the movie.
If they do that, we riot. If they do that, we will destroy this movie. And they know that, I think.
I feel like if that happens, that's going to happen in the third act. He's going to come in to kind of help them get over the hump.
And I said that in our review earlier. I said, this is the way that all the shit we're seeing now. Yeah, Mecca's right. This is in the first act. I get that. About midway through the movie almost is where they end up busting open the containment unit. That's where Ray will show up and maybe Annie Potts. And then we won't see Ernie Hudson and Bill Murray until the very, very end of the movie when they call him in for help.
Right.
That'll be it. And then Sigourney Weaver will be with Bill Murray. So that's when you'll get. I have a feeling we're not going to get nearly as much as we are hoping for.
This is going to be world building.
I hope so. I hope it's good. I hope it's not like Force Awakens and setting us up for nothing but disappointment.
world rebuilding. I think they know better. We got a super chat.
Yeah, DCV Titan sent us a Canadian $5 or $10.
Mm-hmm. I have to buy some Molson now. The best part of the Ghostbusters Afterlife trailer was that the ghost wasn't a bright neon atrocity. My one complaint is that the boy and girl look too much alike. I forgot they were two characters. Yeah, actually, that's a good point.
Well,
yeah.
I was scared because Slimer's CGI. He looks just like he did in the 2016 movie. I was kind of like, oh no.
Not really. He's not as neon. He looks a lot better than the 2016.
That's just because he's out in the daylight.
He's less Mucinex commercial now.
Oh, that little thing.
I mean, yeah, it was cool to see Slimer. It was cool to see the Ecto-1. It was cool to see the foot of a terror dog. You know, I mean, I think Paul Rudd's going to do all right. He fits in that, you know.
This the terror dog
for him, yeah.
The terror dog aspect actually got to me a little bit because that gives me a little bit of a theory that they could be working on something that was introduced in the IDW comics, which they have since, and along with the 2009 game, they've said that's no longer canon a couple of years back at one of the Ghostbusters Day events. But one of the things that they introduced was was in the IDW comics was the third minion of Gozer, which was Adulnaz, who was sought to go after a guy like Ray, because Ray was the selector, picked the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, and it's forever locked into that character as the Destroyer, goes to the Destroyer. So I'm a little bit interested to see if that's the route they're going to go with this. Because we've got the Shandor Mining Company, and Shandor is a big name from the 1984 movie and the video game as well.
No, I think it's funny you mentioned the video game, and I think it's funny when they said that wasn't canon anymore. I think that has to do with this.
Yeah,
I think there's aspects to this story they want to tell that they don't want to be tied down
because
to the game.
Yeah, because this the video game had a lot of aspects from Dan Aykroyd's original treatment from the 90s for Ghostbusters 3 Hellbent. And being that it was wrapped in production hell, it just got developed into a video game because, honestly, like, you have the stuff and material ready, you just make it into a video game, and that costs less than a movie.
Yeah, and Bill Murray will actually do it because he doesn't have to be in the room with anybody.
Oh, I still can't get past those lines. Are still, anytime I hear a line read from him in that game, I'm just like, you really don't want to do this, do you, Bill?
Why? Why do you think he doesn't want to do it? I mean, I know the typical, you know, he's past that character thing, but why do you really think he doesn't want to do it?
Honestly, I don't even think it's the character thing. I think it's who he has to work with.
Yeah.
That's one big thing we learned from Bill Murray out of doing our last few videos is it all depends on who he's got to work with. And he had his issues with Harold Ramis for years. He may have even had issues with Dan Aykroyd we didn't really know about until we recently did our video. So I don't know how many years that went on for either. See, and that's the thing is Bill's somebody who will hold a grudge.
Yeah.
Bill's like, man, fuck y'all. I'm going to go do another Zombie Land.
Well, yeah, and that's just because he liked the director and stuff. I guarantee it. That's probably the main thing.
I think if Bill Murray just works with Ivan Reitman, I think he's fine. But you know, anybody else?
Honestly, I think he felt bad for the last movie. That's part of the reason he did this, because I know he signed over all his rights to the franchise or whatever with the last movie, so they wouldn't bother him no more. And that's covered in one of our videos. But I think this time it was more the sentimental thing. I think he feels bad, you know, plus I'm sure he feels a little guilt for holding out this long and missing the opportunity to make another one with Harold Ramis.
I think it's more of the guilt factor of, like, Ramis didn't get like his last writing of Ghostbusters in. He did reconcile. If you watch what is it, the movies that made us, they did
everybody keeps saying that. Yeah. We just busted our ass on this Ghostbusters documentary, and everybody's like, "What did you just watch that?" I'm like, "No, yeah. Rob and I've been working on this all fucking week."
But
if I'd seen it, if I had Netflix, I would have told you.
Rob don't even have Netflix.
I would have said something.
And I was literally just earlier this week contemplating, if it wasn't for Mecca, getting rid of Netflix because I don't watch the shit.
I don't either.
I know, but you used it for Stranger Things and Dark Crystal and stuff.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, I was using them, but
But yeah, if you're not, then I might even consider it.
But Violet
I'm gonna
is,
have to with Witcher though. I gotta at least check out Witcher.
Okay, well, let me know when you're done with that.
but Violet is Harold's daughter. She basically confirmed that in what was left or the waning years of Harold Ramis' life, that Bill actually showed up in Chicago to a precinct and just said, "Take me to Harold." Like,
yeah, we put that in our one video, and he showed up with donuts, and they had a bit of a reconciling, even though Bill did all the talking, I guess, because at that point, Harold was unable to speak.
Harold Ramis was one of those guys that whenever he would turn up in a movie, you were like, it's that guy, even though you really didn't know his name, but it was like, hey, it's that guy. Oh yeah, but back when I was a kid, I didn't really didn't recognize the name Harold Ramis.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, there's very few actors that I started learning their names at such a young age. You got to remember, Ghostbusters came out when I was like 4, and I didn't see it till I was probably 5. And those guys, because I remember seeing like Stripes on the shelf, and I'm like, Mom, it's a Ghostbusters movie, and she's like, no, that's another movie with the same guy in it. So it was like I still had to kind of come to terms with this whole, and like I told you guys before with the Clint Howard story, that's kind of one of the first times I realized that there's such a thing as actors. And that movies weren't just people capturing something, in real life. Because I've seen my picture taken, and I've seen people do video of me. So I just figure, that shit happens. Superman's real.
You're peering into this world.
Exactly. Star Wars is real. Don't tell me any different. But no, he's like sat down. One day we're watching it, and he's like, "That's Opie's little brother." I'm like, "No, it's not. It's his friend." He's like, "No, but in real life, that's the actor's brother." I'm like, huh? He's like, yeah, that's Ron Howard, and that's his brother, Clint Howard.
Hey, wait a minute. I was like, hey, wait a minute. How could Eaglebauer and this guy be in two different places? Yeah.
Eaglebauer, it was just little things like that. And then so Ghostbusters really woke me up, and then I learned their names, like Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd and Ernie Hudson and Harold Ramis and Rick Moranis and Sigourney Weaver and so on. Like, I think really the first time I really kind of got the whole thing was really like the television premieres sometimes too would kind of clue me in that I'm like, okay, so now I know their names, and I'm just a little 4 or 5-year-old watching, picking all this shit up.
Yeah, no, I feel you. Well, I mean, when I was young, dude, I actually figured out that Bill Murray was in Ghostbusters because of What About Bob? What About Bob was where I put 2 and 2 together. But, just overall for me, man, Ghostbusters, I mean, they were probably like the first superheroes to me.
Yeah, they were a lot like a superhero troop, yeah.
I was the first superhero group to me. I felt like, when I was young, because I was probably like, 6 years old when I first saw it?
Oh, so I thought you were a little younger than me, so you're actually a little older. Okay, not much.
How old are you?
I was born in 80, so.
I'm born in 84. So I saw it when I was
you didn't see
early 90s.
Okay, you didn't see it
like
video.
90, 91, yeah.
All right.
Please don't tell me I'm this guy here. Oh, come on.
You're the oldest guy here.
Then the 91 Brett that was introduced to Ghostbusters through the Universal Studios attraction, and that kickstarted everything.
Yeah, you're the guy that posted that online.
Yeah.
I think I've told you this though, Tom. I saw Ghostbusters and Gremlins in the same night.
Yeah, you told me that too.
Yeah, most people probably did, or at least the same weekend, because neither one of them flopped. So, and here's the thing I heard about Gremlins. It played really hardcore in New York because I guess a lot of New Yorkers were still pissed off at the Ghostbusters for holding up so much traffic. In fact, there's a famous story where Dan Aykroyd got to meet one of his heroes, Isaac Asimov, but he got to meet him by getting yelled at by him because he was holding up traffic. So that was a little embarrassing for Aykroyd. But yeah, no, and then I saw, of course, the second movie in theaters opening day. I begged and begged and begged my parents to take me because it was Ghostbusters. I was so into Ghostbusters at that point. The series was at the hype. It was just at that point between where I was shifting from Ghostbusters to Ninja Turtles, but it was like this last hoorah with Ghostbusters 2. And even at that young age of like, I think it was 9 when the movie came out. Yeah, 9. So I was like, it was good. It wasn't as good as the first movie, but even then though I had like, I was never going to badmouth that movie. It wasn't until much later in life where I realized, this is just the same movie all over again.
Like there's moments of Ghostbusters 2 that they do hit. Like the courtroom scene is by far the best scene. Like where they're
one of the best, if not when the guys come in the restaurant. Guys, you're scaring the straights.
yes, just flinging slime. Was it Aykroyd's flinging slime all over the patrons? It's back at the museum.
Now, what about the original soundtrack for Ghostbusters 2?
Both of them.
I remember the music videos on MTV, the soundtrack music videos that I'd watch.
Oh yeah, I remember waking up every morning watching Bobby Brown.
Yep.
Run DMC. I remember seeing the premiere of that video. Of course, then the original Ghostbusters also had a killer soundtrack. And when I was editing the videos, I was listening to the score, the first soundtrack, and the second soundtrack over and over. I was editing the video this morning.
That's the one aspect of the sequel that I really didn't like. I hated its scoring.
I wish they would release the score. It's not as good as the first film.
That
is true. It feels very cartoony.
Elmer Bernstein did the score for the 1984 film, and there's just like these little things that he did in the scores that he did, like a particular what is it, that techno beat that you hear when Aykroyd says, "How about some music?" after they're talking about Judgment Day?
Incidental music, yeah.
Yeah, he does that one little incidental track all by itself, and then you never hear it again. I'm like,
he scored it. You know, one thing I noticed, and he scored it as half comedy, half horror movie.
Well, it was actually scored more like a horror movie. You're right, and because didn't he also do the music for Animal House 2 as well?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Here's the thing, and I remember from that story was, when he brought the score to Animal House to those guys to hear, they were kind of taken off at first because they're like, wait a minute, this sounds like a super serious score. Like, this doesn't sound like a comedy score. And they fell in love with it, and that's what elevated the movie. It made it feel that much more important. And of course, the same thing with Star Wars, you know, the music makes all the difference in the world. And then with Ghostbusters, a lot of that score is electronic, mixed with some orchestra. It was kind of different. And then I think Script Doctor's right, and Randy Edelman I think did the second soundtrack, and it just sounds like something out of the cartoon, although I would still like to have it just for prestige.
Which, if it sounds like the cartoon, that actually makes a ton of sense, because they were gearing it to make it like,
we allude to that in our video, but we've got more than enough evidence of that between the studio and Ramis and a few other people that they pushed the movie closer to the cartoons.
Which I think it's funnier, because I get a lot of people that tell me like, oh, well, the second movie's not as scary. There are terrifying moments in Ghostbusters 2. Like, just the subway, was it the subway tunnel sequence alone, where there's just
head pikes? Yeah.
Like, what the hell? And you never, it's a moment you never speak of again, because it's just gone after that. Like, no more. And then, Ghost Train.
I know for me in part 2, just that painting freaked me out.
Yeah, the Vigo, the Carpathia. And speaking of, this may be something that is worth of a talking point. This new film may actually retcon the events of 2 completely.
I don't think they will, because they say 30 years. They don't say 40 years.
That's true. Yeah.
And I believe what it's just going to be is, and that's where I think they're probably going to disregard the video game, is so that they can, set up the time period that, Egon went and he bought this farm, had a family, settled down, all that kind of crap.
This also takes a little bit of the real Ghostbusters element out as well, because there's a couple episodes. There's one episode I know for a fact where they go to the Spangler farm or something, and that I feel that it's playing a little.
True. I remember that now. Yeah,
they are playing a little bit of nuances in there. Like, even with the Ecto-1 having the gunner seat is based on the Kenner toy. So I
think that was present in the other one, but they just never used it.
Right.
But we do need to move on to Star Wars here soon. But we do have a $5 super chat from Captain Hare, our good friend Rob.
Captain Hare, $5 super chat. I'm hoping for a twist where Egon's not dead. He's been rolling around the slime all this time, and it's made him a god. Oh, okay, well.
No, I don't think we're going to see Egon. I think they're going to surmise, like I said early on, that he's passed over. He's, he's in heaven, whatever. And
he did.
Like he's got, like I said, he's got the containment unit underneath his farm. He's got the car. He's got all the gear. So the kids are going to find all the gear. And we see the one scene where they chase the ghost through town.
And, God. I'm watching. I got Monday Night Football on, and they're doing a whole Star Wars spiel on Monday Night Football. They changed the intro. The intro where the helmets look like the new Star Wars branding, like they try to do the Marvel Studios thing.
No.
Yeah. And oh god, they have lightsabers. Carson Wentz with a lightsaber.
Oh my god, they stole my idea.
They're squaring off.
Oh,
Carson,
no.
I have that lightsaber. Where's the Mace Windu saber? Where is it?
And there's the Amazing Wonder Ray. Oh, for God's sake.
Now, do you have the replica or do you have the toy?
I got the replica.
That's what I figured.
Mace Windu, Kylo, and Darth Maul.
Now, does the replica actually say "bad motherfucker" on it?
I etched it in on the side.
Oh, you did.
Giant Eagles. I'm Uche. Don't take it too. Don't be too hard on me. I'm a Giants fan, so I'm not doing that well this season. So
I mean, I'm a Jaguars fan, so I think we definitely have something in common there.
Hey, Rob, you do know you're not on the team, right?
Well, yeah, no kidding.
When you're a fan, you're kind of part of the team. It's personal.
You better tell her she better not insult Giants football.
No, I'm insulting Rob.
Hey, when I was a kid, the Giants had a long tradition. Unfortunately, it was a tradition of losing, but it was a tradition nonetheless.
Well, we got a couple Super Bowls at least.
Yeah. You remember? You're familiar with the Miracle of the Meadowlands?
I am.
Yeah. I was watching that game. I was like, "What the hell just happened?" They were winning. No, what happened? No. It was just, and then
the exact opposite happened against San Francisco. Like what, 10 years ago?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, $5, £5 from Namco. Bobby Brown, can I buy the Proton Pack for my kid brother? Egon, Proton Pack is not a toy.
Oh, hey, yo, the Ghostbusters.
Can I get one of those Proton Packs for my kid brother? Oh, you'll have to ask Ziggy. It's not a toy.
Yo.
Yeah, he's right. Proton Pack's not a toy.
This is a pretty big article here, Tom. It fills out about 10 pages on my
work. Yeah, so there's just bits and pieces. We're gonna have to kind of go through it. This article is very important, more so than what's in it per se. I mean, there's some points we might want to hit, but this is as bad as the Forbes article for Disney. This is very bad because the Wall Street Journal is directed at the money people.
Yeah. They laid it out. In buying the brand, they actually everything was approached from a purely strategic business standpoint. They didn't really consider the story or the lore or the fan base in any way, shape, or form when they got that property, which is just confirmation that they lied to George Lucas's face.
Mm-hmm. Now, Bob Iger has also actually said we're looking forward to a new era Star Wars where we're not burdened by the lore or by the
original trilogy.
And that's where that originated, was this article. As far as I can tell.
Like you fools. Of course,
How dare you talk to me that way, you third-rate tot!
Yeah, so
here's the thing. It's about time they stop taking advantage of these investors by bullshitting them with paired analytics, with all this false information, fake numbers that you can't trace back to anything, and basically deceptive marketing. When you have fake Twitter accounts that are just created to perpetuate this myth that Kelly Marie Tran was bullied off of social media, when her own interview says she's talking about the media and Hollywood and how she's being marketed clothes to her that she's not able to fit in, et cetera, et cetera. You gotta. I'm so tired of these people, and they're doing it in Star Trek, and they're doing it in pretty much everything. Where they're
careful, Mecca, you're fat shaming her.
Oh, fuck her.
Right.
Sorry, seriously, I'm tired of her. I'm tired. No, it's like if I can't say that she looked like she gained weight in between two movies without fat shaming some dumb chick that doesn't even know we exist because she doesn't have social media. So how can we fat shame somebody that we've never had any interaction with as well?
My cruelest moment though was when people were talking about Kelly Marie Tran. And I said, on the Facebook group, and I said, yeah, don't worry. She's not the only Asian woman to ruin something a lot of people love. And I put a picture of Yoko Ono sitting next to her. Like, hey, we're all thinking it, man.
Oh, shit. He went there.
Oh, let me tell you.
That's why we're called racist.
Let me tell you, Jay. I played pub trivia on Tuesday, on every Tuesday night. And one night we happened to be on playing on December 8th, which is the day John Lennon was killed. And our team name was, why couldn't Yoko Ono be standing 5 feet further to the left?
Oh, cold-blooded.
$10.
Yeah, I must have missed what I said earlier in the super chat. Killer Stove wants to know what our take was on the trailer. On the mine, is it being owned by Shandor? I'm concerned we're going to see Gozer again, soft reboot style. That could be a possibility. I think Matt brought up that part. I think he's just got the containment unit down there.
I think, well, with the presence of the Terror Dog, I'm thinking Gozer's trying to come back.
That's a plausibility too.
Yeah.
But,
The second, the third.
See, and then they're going to need the old Ghostbusters.
He hid the containment trap under the farm. I mean, as a security measure, obviously. I mean, that's the most dangerous part.
The other thing is that, again, using the video game once more, is that, like, there are these earthquakes that are going on, and there's no fracking going on. We're nowhere near a tectonic plate. So if it's not the containment unit, I'm guessing they're going to go with the ley line method, or the Mandela, not Nelson Mandela, but Mandalas. Themselves, of where these like ports of spiritual energy are pouring out. And being that it's a Shandor place, and like just like the Spook Central building of 1984, it's going to be this like superconductive antenna that's underground, possibly.
I mean, that makes sense, right? I mean, you think about Paranormal Activity, and you go into those abandoned buildings, those abandoned mental hospitals, and you can actually detect paranormal activity to some degree.
Well, you can detect electromagnetic fluctuations. There's no proof that an electromagnetic field is actually a ghost, but yeah. So there's what if, now my brain was working the whole time here. What if Egon was looking for a way to like focus the conductive electromagnetic energy or whatever else to finally summon and contain Gozer and everything, and and that's what that actually is, and that something's happening there, that now that he's passed, he can't physically contain it.
Well, because I feel there's also a little bit more of the Extreme Ghostbusters mythos being used here, because in Extreme Ghostbusters, at least in the pilot, it's that Egon's been sitting at the firehouse the whole time, basically keeping an eye on the containment unit and making sure that it doesn't blow over. So that could be what we're seeing here as well. I don't know if we're getting more of like, okay, we're trying to like control a god or anything, but like in Egon's case, it would be to study it, because again, the brain of the Ghostbusters is always trying to learn from the supernatural side of things.
And if he's trying to study it, then maybe he weakened whatever electromagnetic field was kind of a barrier between that realm and our realm. He doesn't get to pass that study or any of that knowledge on. So, these kids show up, stumble upon the containment trap, and with all the disturbances in the area, I mean, they could then kind of finish that process of breaking down that barrier,
right?
Or strengthening it.
Yeah, and I think that's where I was saying is like that's where probably like Dan Aykroyd will come in, because they're going to need somebody to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and he's the only one who has any knowledge of how to do that. We got another super chat from our good friend Michael Clark, $4.99. Thank you so much. Tom, you're an awesome guy. Really appreciate your support last night. Everyone support a great channel. Ghostbusters Afterlife looks awesome. Well, thank you, Michael Clark. We appreciate it, as always. So, yeah, moving back on to Star Wars, this article Yeah, unfortunately. The one point in this article that's really kind of damning to them is it shows the dark slide, as they put it. Under Disney, ticket sales for Star Wars movies are showing diminishing returns. Imagine that, Rob.
Haha. We told you so.
Fault. It's their own fault. You're showing diminishing returns. Are you kidding me? I'm not the one out there making the movie. Hey, you know what?
It's not only that.
Movies aren't mandatory. We don't have to see it.
It's not mandatory, and they pretty much shot themselves in the foot by having one every other year. Like, what did you expect? That's how. That's fatigue.
I expected you to line up for the amazing Wonder Ray. That's what I expected you to do, Matt. You toxic hell.
Wait, was that Kathleen Kennedy?
Yes, it is Kathleen Kennedy.
Yeah.
How dare you talk to me that way? You're full of misogyny.
Smoke another cigarette.
Full of misogyny.
Wait, it's Gozer.
There is no Dana, only Zool.
What a lovely scene.
Sub-creature, be one with us. Oh, no, it sounds like there's too many in there already.
I mean, I think they could have been better. I think they could have done well with the franchise if they just taken the story in a more cohesive, coherent direction. I mean, you look at movies like Rogue One. Rogue One, I thought, was actually the best of all the movies that they've done as part of this Disney Star Wars franchise. But you know, the dollars speak too. I mean, you see 900 to 500, 500 million for what? For a B-side movie, really, compared to the main trilogy for the sequel trilogy. Then 600 for Last Jedi. That's a $300 million difference.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say what's really telling is how well Rogue One did compared to The Last Jedi.
Yeah,
I mean, just look at that. There's less than 100 million difference between the two. That's very sad for The Last Jedi. And then look at Solo. I mean, that's just pitiful.
And I mean, I think a lot of people liked Rogue One. You know, could stomach it better than the rest of the Disney Star Wars movies, mainly because the story was kind of a standalone story. It was its own movie, standing on the side. Now, Solo suffered because of The Last Jedi, and nobody asked for it.
And also, Rogue One was the sandwich story. It was between the new trilogy. Was it the Anakin
connected
trilogy,
the old trilogy?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Which you can grasp the story of that because it uses the lore of the original trilogy.
Yeah. And then you get that Vader scene added on at the end to kind of cement that connection. And
I still love that sequence.
That's
sequences.
That is like, to me, that's the third best sequence in all of Star Wars.
That's the best aspect of that is everybody knows it's going to happen. You know that everybody's going to get slaughtered on this thing. It's just how it happens.
Vader comes in and cleans house. Yeah.
And does it in a way that's more representative. I think that's what George Lucas wanted in his mind. That's the vision he had for how Darth Vader would act in combat.
Yeah, just badass who comes in, it's
methodical
like
destruction.
There's just no stopping him.
Yeah,
that's it.
He just calmly walks down that hallway. I mean, and it's like in the comic book. I mean, I've read the comic book, so you know. When Luke and the gang are trying to evade him on I forget the name of the planet, but they're trying to evade him. He's trying to capture Luke because he's been hunting Luke since the destruction of the first Death Star, and there's a field of rebel troops. He's surrounded by rebel troops, and they're telling him to drop his lightsaber, and Vader is. You know, they said they got him surrounded. He says, all I hear is fear or all I see is fear and dead men. And he just takes out the entire platoon by himself. Yeah. And it's the same kind of feeling. He's in a hallway by himself with these soldiers and nobody stands a chance in there against him. Not even in the slightest.
And you see that one guy banging on the door. Let me
Help us!
Yeah.
Dude, I've seen that video like 100 times.
Very slasher like if you think about it. Just like, he's gonna get it. He's gonna get it.
Well, yeah, we used to actually have bad guys in Star Wars.
Yeah, I mean, and the way he's cutting down those rebel troops, he's just like heavy swings on each one of them, force grabs, slamming them.
I was waiting for a Jason mask to go over his face. God,
that shit had me so hyped.
And that's what you want. That's what you want to see. And you know, you want to. Hold on, we got three. We got 3 super chats to check up and catch up on here. Hold on. Where we go here? Blah 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 blah. Michael Clark. Okay, Fortnite. Did we get that one? Michael Clark. Tom, you're on.
Yeah, we did. Well, you can say it again.
Sporking News. Rosetta Allen. Love you guys. Phantom Menace support. Nelson Chiretta, $2. Why did Venkman have Thor's name in the date?
That is one of the most asked questions about that movie. Now, while I have you here, Matt, I have I've had a I hate calling it a fan theory because I feel like there's got to be something somewhere that supports this. Now, at the point where the Ghostbusters are in the movie, remember when they drop Rick Moranis off and he's like dropping off or picking up?
Yes.
Or, you know, that's the whole thing. I have a feeling they've dealt with a lot of loony bins in the last few months. And so Venkman has gone on a few house calls. So he's had to actually Thorazine up some people that are like thinking they're having, you know, they're possessed or whatever.
And then you buzz the cops. Or you buzz the paddy wagon. You're just like, hey, yeah.
So I think that's a solution as to why Venkman probably had Thorazine on him. At least not on him. It was probably in the vehicle, I'm imagining.
Also, you have to look at because again, another thing that the how movies made us is that this was a movie that was rushed in editing too. Like there were some story aspects that they had to omit just for time. And one of the explanations of where the Thorazine came from could have been one of those things that they just cut for time.
So the answer to that question is back off, man. I'm a scientist.
That works too.
Well, that's my thing is he doesn't come in with like a medicine bag or whatever, anything like that. And
you just see her out. She's just out. Or she's checking her pulse and she's out.
And there's a big scene that's cut there between Winston and Ray. So like I said, that's not above the realm of possibility. That's what I always kind of figured is, like I said, they've dealt with a lot of these loonies lately. Yeah. It's just a normal thing for him now.
A syringe can fit into a cigarette case, you know, and so, you know, vial of Thorazine into your coat pocket. So, I mean, you know, like I said,
and he is a doctor, so he's technically probably authorized to use it.
He's a PhD in parapsychology.
Psychology and parapsychology. But anyway,
didn't study.
$5, Captain Hair. I maintain the porn parody to Rise of Skywalker will outperform the actual movie earnings. I hope so.
Oh, it'll outperform, all right.
$2.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Hey now. Yeah. TCB Titan. Vader coming in like a pimp daddy of the Force. That's right. That's right.
Man, that Vader made that one. That Lord Vader's one bad mother.
Shut your mouth.
I am only talking about Vader.
I can dig it. Diggity. So, but I was saying about the three words that describe, getting back to Star Wars, that describe the entire Disney era are bait and switch. And there's that great it's a great meme I saw on the internet. I can't find it of, you know, I went to see this. I expected this. I got this. I went to see Disney Star Wars. I expected The Empire Strikes Back, and I got all the Disney. And it shows that Disney princesses.
I always equate it to paying for prime rib but getting served hamburger.
Hey, worse, getting served dog food. You got a big old can of Alpo. I mean, come on. I mean, nobody
got it for free from his last commercial shoot.
Nelson Chiretta, $5. What made Luke a great character? They faced Vader and lost. When he faced Vader again, there was a real threat. Compared to Rey versus Kylo, no threat.
You have an overpowered character that has no weakness.
You have a trained Sith warrior or quote unquote Sith warrior who can't beat a novice. Like what? I mean, it was a cool scene, but god damn, I was like, wait. She's not going to beat Kylo Ren, is she?
She downloaded his skill set. Yeah.
It's just Absolutely. Like in character, in actually writing a character and even supporting a character, you need to have weaknesses so you as an audience member can actually root for the
Relate.
character.
Yeah.
Go on with the character. What is there to root about Rey?
Nothing. Stan Lee said, I always made the villain stronger than the hero, so that the hero would have to rise up and act like a hero.
Because again, that's the mark of also mortality, being a human being. I don't care if this is, like we're playing the Star Wars character era where, these are like alien characters. No, screw that. Make them human.
Remember the whole thing, Qui-Gon Jinn, when he said nothing can kill a Jedi. I wish that were so. Yeah. I mean, like I said, the fact that Jedi can just die and be taken out gives them a sense of stakes. Sifo Dyas was killed over 10 years ago.
It doesn't matter. Death isn't the end. Everybody's just going to come right back. So
yes, death.
You get a Force Ghost. You get a Force Ghost. Everybody gets Force Ghosts.
But you get replaced with a Hayden Christensen Force Ghost.
No, Uche. They are Force spirits. Otherwise, the Chinese won't let us show it.
Yeah. You fortune ghost.
China.
You fortune ghost.
Stop pandering. We have money too.
Take the Force Ghost number 10. Number 10 with what side of Chow Mein.
All right,
you
we're
are
gonna get in so much
Ghost. We make
trouble with you.
cookies. Fortune Ghost cookie.
Which also, good luck with that, Sony. I'm getting Ghostbusters in China.
Oh, they don't need it in China. If the movie is good, it'll be fine.
Well, remember they were making a big deal about that in 2016 about trying to get it there. I'm like,
that's because they had to.
Yeah, that's true.
Dude, I didn't even think for a second I would watch that movie. I didn't even watch the trailer.
What?
The 2016.
So I can't. I unfortunately I cannot really understand you hardcore Ghostbusters fans' pain because I never for 1 second saw any part of that.
Well, what's worse, like in my aspect, is that was the budding film student in 2016. I just moved to a new school and started that, and like, wow, this movie is the real quintessential how not to take a franchise and go ahead with it.
Well, I went to see it simply because I got enough people bitching at me because this was just before I got into Midnight's Edge and I was doing my own thing. Yeah. But I still had, my Ghostbusters stuff was some of my most watched videos at the time, even with just a couple hundred subscribers. So I was like, getting enough people griping, well, you just keep bitching about a movie, you ain't seen it yet, how do you know it's bad, blah, 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 blah. It's like, oh, well, I will go see it, don't worry. Because I was actually sticking up for the movie until the first trailer come out. Like, I was like the odd man out among my friends. They're all like, oh, they can't do this. It's like, yeah, I don't like the idea that they're remaking Ghostbusters, but, I liked Bridesmaids. I thought The Heat was funny. Spy wasn't that great, but it's like, I'm willing to give this guy a chance because he does seem like he has, a good rapport with a lot of these actresses. And I wasn't a Melissa McCarthy hater. I didn't like her per se, but I didn't have that like undying hate for her like some people do.
Same here.
But now after that fucking movie and some of the shit she's said since then, I have a hard time watching her on screen.
Which I've said it before that because we've used it in one of the Ghostbusters 2016 mini docs where she went on Kimmel and said, the famous like, oh, well, they're just a bunch of keyboard warriors that, their mom's screaming them down in the basement. And they have since taken that down. Kimmel took that video down completely.
It's probably so massively downvoted and they got so much backlash for it.
They're going to get demonetized.
Yeah, it probably got demonetized and they just deleted it.
I know. Like, again, like as you, Tom, I also was like just giving it the shred of hope that it was going to be something else. I wanted to be proved wrong, and boy, it was anything but.
Yeah. Well, it was worse because I was willing to give it a benefit of the doubt. But yeah, I don't know if you really got a chance to go through this much yet, Rob. I did go through it with the ladies last night, and I've read it once. It is a hell of an article. It's huge. But it basically breaks down everything that's been going wrong with the Star Wars movies. It blames us. KK doesn't comment.
Always. That's right. I will not comment on this. I will not give you any satisfaction, you toxic man.
always a good sign when the president of a production unit won't say a word.
There's a lot of words like narrative whiplash and things like that alluding to the Phantom Menace.
Yeah, well,
toxic fans.
they can suck their little toxic narrative, and you know what? If this next movie flops or underperforms, I mean, but here's the thing: it's going to have a 5-day opening no matter what. So
Yeah.
they're gonna, even 6 day. They're gonna do as many days as they can.
Friday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday,
Sunday. Probably Monday too.
What? Let me see.
I don't know. It doesn't start on Wednesday, but it does
Thursday,
internationally.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, they'll definitely do a 4-day weekend.
I'm thinking 5 or 6 day opening weekend for this one because they're going to do anything they can. And of course, they're going to include worldwide. It's opening a day early worldwide. This is how they get that extra day because it's opening just a few hours earlier worldwide. So yeah, we're gonna. It's not going to fail. They're not going to let it fail, just like they didn't let Captain Marvel fail. Because if they let Captain Marvel fail, then when Bob Iger runs for president, he can't count on all those little woke votes that are just going to vote because he made Captain Marvel a movie and he's for diversity.
That's not how the Force works.
Well, that's how voting works, though. That's how Hollywood works.
Well, this is an interesting bit here. This is something I don't know anybody's talked about yet. But there's 2 parts to this. I know I'm skipping through this article because this is so huge. We need to go through it again. I have a feeling we're going to get probably a couple videos out of this. But Disney has announced plans for 2 additional spin-off series for its Disney Plus streaming service, including one starring actor Ewan McGregor, reprising his role as Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yep.
This week, Disney announced a Star Wars-themed game show.
Oh
the
my
streaming
God.
service.
Oh,
Hosted by none other than Jar Jar Binks himself, Ahmad Best.
Is that an apology for them bullying him out of Hollywood?
Yes, it is.
Well, the journalists.
Yeah, like
anyway.
they blame us for that too.
Yeah.
Bullshit. No, it's not us who didn't give him a job.
Give the black guy a damn game show host role.
Hey, while we're at it, why don't we have a beat reporter out of freaking Jake Lloyd?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and see, Jake Lloyd, I blame on his fucking parents.
Oh yeah, terrible agents.
That's a terrible idea to let your kid be in a Star Wars movie. I don't care. Plus, the other kid that was a much better actor. If you watch that documentary. But anyway, that aside, I mean, I didn't hear about this game show until this article, but it doesn't say anything about the Casio keyboard series.
Oh,
the Cassian Andor one. Did they cancel that one finally?
I'm starting to wonder that or it's pushed back.
Tom, first question for $100.
For $100.
Why did the Cassian Andor series get canceled?
Well,
Nobody liked it.
The Casio keyboard series not gonna be.
Correct.
Lisa gonna lose my job. Lisa think it's a stupid idea.
And that's the only one I was actually kind of interested in because I liked the droid.
Yeah, I like the droid. Yeah,
and they were gonna bring him back because I don't care about Cassian Andor. Because I know he's gonna die. Everybody's gonna fucking die in that. I mean, are they that stupid to think? Well, of course, this is also from them coming from. They didn't know for 4 years if they're gonna do Ewan McGregor as a movie or a TV show for the last 4 years. They've been flip flopping back
because of the whole Solo thing failing completely.
Yep.
Or remember, like the jokes about Aunt Beru getting her own movie.
Rose Tico TV series, Ewok series.
Just
okay,
no.
all you little Wokemon, stop saying every side character needs their own spin-off film. Nobody gives a shit about Rose Tico.
I care more about Firm Scissor Punch, to be honest.
It's just a badly written character. I don't like it. There's no reason for a character other than to screw up Finn's arc.
What was that, Uche?
Just an unnecessary character. I mean, if it was just, I mean, The Last Jedi was just so bad. It had no direction. So it seemed like anybody who wasn't part of the main cast from The Force Awakens was an unnecessary character. Didn't need to be in it.
Even more so, it was all about the classic cast. It was all about Leia. It was all about Luke too. It's just like we're trying to make it look like we're focused on this new cast that we want you to be invested in, but really it depends on Leia, and it depends on Luke Skywalker too. It's that thinly veiled thing. Like we're trying to make it about this, but really, no, we're trying to get you to desperately be devoted to this new cast of characters.
Well, it's because they failed miserably because they made them completely unrelatable and stupid. They've gone and done the exact opposite. I'm gonna let my Southern come out here, even though I'm not from the South. They done let their the opposite come out of what they were trying to do with their little SJW, narrative here, and that is they made these characters completely unrelatable, completely unlikable, and completely unbelievable. But I do want to touch on this real quick. Miss Kennedy, the Lucasfilm president, who was handpicked by Mr. Lucas to take over months before he sold to Disney, has struggled to bridge the pre and post Disney cultures at Lucasfilm. This means exactly what we've been fucking saying. There's two regimes, one that's pro Lucas and pro classic Star Wars, and then her fucking puppets. That's exactly what that's saying. And guess what? Miss Kennedy declined to comment.
You're a toxic man, Thomas. You're a toxic man. Why don't you understand my genius?
Can I sue Kathleen Kennedy for PTSD?
Can I sue?
Can we do a class action?
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to, and we're just gonna have to throw Kathleen Kennedy, Alex Kurtzman, J.J. Abrams, Paul Feig, all of them in there. I'm tired of all these people. They gotta go.
You're allowed to sue a car company for bad product. Why can't we sue Disney for a bad Star Wars movie?
For willfully and wantingly to cause us pain and destruction and blaming us. We can pull up every time we saw an article that says these toxic fans and you're a racist and you're a sexist and you're a misogynist. Because you know what? That causes stress. Like I had a genuine legit panic attack before I watched the new Ghostbusters movie because I thought this is going to be another thing that is just going to get my hopes up and just slap me in the face all over again. Because I have grabbed for that cupcake and been electrocuted too many times by every one of these franchises, and I'm tired of this. I am so tired of this, and I have to pay for that.
I actually have sound of Mecha reaching for that cupcake.
Are you sure that's not mine? That sounds like me.
That's you. Yeah, that's Matt. That's
all
my
of
recording
us.
of Matt. This keeps getting better. Listen to this, guys. Okay, of course they got to sit there and suck her dick, by reminding us that she's made 3 movies that we love. And
anybody could have made those.
Okay.
George Lucas made those.
I need to get on this because yes, you were a producer, but again, how much of it was really you? How much of it was really Steven Spielberg and George Lucas? Quit pretending this is. I talked about this a while back. This is the Amy Pascal defense again. It was just like, I just knew the right people. I clung to them for dear life like a dingleberry. And that's it.
Okay, Uche, I'm going to ask you because you're a sports guy. And I always use this sports analogy, and so does Rob when it comes to this. Miss Kennedy is like the 5th or 6th guy on the bench, is the same team as Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and all those guys back in the day. So really, it doesn't matter if it's her or the janitor.
You got a ring too.
You got the water boy.
Yeah, you got a ring too.
I'm getting a ring too. Yeah, I was on the practice squad, but I get a ring.
That's right.
I'm a champion. I'm a champion. Now we're gonna let you run the franchise. All right, we'll see you in a few years. See how that works.
I'm sorry. Gary Kurtz had more to do with
he got screwed.
Yeah, with making those good than Kathleen Kennedy did.
Go Johnston.
But anyway, to go on with this. Oh, don't even get me started on that because we're gonna bring that up maybe if we got time too. He's back, Rob. He's back.
Oh,
not in the way you want him to be back.
Oh, bad.
He's making a remake of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
No,
with Josh Gad.
We don't need one. I've got it sitting on my shelf. We already got this one. Stop with these goddamn remakes.
It's already bad enough that I just got done because I just recently rewatched these all on Disney Plus. I watched Shrunk, I watched Blew Up, and then I watched Shrunk Ourselves, which, good God, thank God that was only a direct-to-video.
I think that was Rick Moranis' last movie, wasn't it?
His last live action, yes.
But don't you know, Tom, that kids won't go see the movie?
You know what this is going to be, though? We're mistaking it as a reboot. What it's going to be is a reboot-quel. Josh Gad is going to play Rick Moranis' kid.
He's going to be Nick Zielinski, and I just don't see it. I don't see it because again, there's only one thing I've ever liked Josh Gad in, and it's the thing that made him famous, Book of Mormon. That's the only thing I've ever liked him in. And now he's just reciprocating that same stupid, bumbling Arnold Cunningham character in, Frozen, in Beauty and the Beast. And
just gay.
That's all it is. It's the quirky sidekick.
I remember Josh Gad when he was on The Daily Show, and he wasn't even that good there.
Yeah, he's not funny. He tries too hard.
Also, geez, what happened to Nick Zielinski to put on that much weight? Good Lord.
I know.
Did he get blown up by the shrink ray?
We got a couple super chats, Rob. Matt G showing some love as always with a buck. Doesn't say nothing, but just tosses us a buck like a hooker. Or like a stripper, I mean. Not a hooker. Making it rain. Nelson Sharita, $2. The Wall Street Journal article confirms get woke, go broke. Oh, but they still managed to blame us, but we're going to keep going on this. This is such a packed article. We could probably feed off this for a month. Automata, give us $2. So cross my fingers and hope Darth charge our hopes. Use our donated power of the darker side.
It's a false lightning, because you got the wrong answer.
Saquon breaking it up for fit by 15. Breaking up field.
So anyway, moving on with this Kathleen Kennedy bit.
And coming back on a holding penalty. Never mind.
Lucasfilm couldn't attract bold visionary directors if it expected to keep them on a short leash, according to one Last Jedi producer. That creative freedom has repeatedly clashed with Disney's need to make a movie that simultaneously moves the story forward while catering to some fans' nostalgic impulses. Do you
think that producer is Kiri Hart?
No, it's fucking Ryan Johnson they're talking about right now. According to people who have worked with the company on the new films, The Force Awakens was criticized for hewing too closely to the 1977 classic, and The Last Jedi was criticized for taking the narrative in erratic directions. That, at least, they are telling the truth on. They can blame it on us all they want, but they just said it in their own fucking words right there what the problem was.
To be fair, that's Wall Street Journal's perspective, right?
Well, yeah, but this is still the money guys. They still got to bring us up at some point. But yeah, the result has been a revolving door of directors hired to great public fanfare and fired when their narrative ambition edged too far outside guidelines, or it became clear they weren't experienced enough to handle $200 million mega productions. Okay. This one, that's Trevorrow.
Yep.
This one is Lord and Miller, which is horse shit. These guys have made a bunch of big movies. I blame Kathleen Kennedy. I don't give a shit what Rob says. I don't think that it was, there's certain aspects of it that I'm sure were bad, but I think that Lord and Miller were doing exactly what was expected of them.
Mm-hmm.
And when certain people behind the scenes didn't like the way things were going, they started to stink.
Well, the story is that they had they were not delivering what was intended. That's the official story.
Well, didn't we hear that they were doing like improv and it took 3 times longer, and they were doing like multiple takes of multiple stuff, and they were going to just.
Lawrence Kasdan was upset that they weren't shooting his script verbatim too.
Well, the thing with Lord and Miller though is that they have had films where that has worked for them so greatly. Like this is
their first big misstep, really.
Yeah, like what is it? They've done the Lego Movie and what is it?
Lord the 21 Jump Street movies and a few other things to where just about everything these guys have been a part of has not had a problem making money.
The other thing that you have to give Lord and Miller credit on this is that they want their actors to feel more like the characters and to establish chemistry. Letting them gel like this actually lets them be more cohesive and kind of more electric on the screen.
But let me put it to you guys like this. If Kasdan's script is what we got out of Ron Howard's version of the film, that fucking sucks.
Yeah.
So they probably saw that and they're like, okay, the best parts of Harrison Ford's character are when he's improvising. You know what I mean? When like the scene where he's in the Death Star and they're like, this is a boring conversation anyway, and he shoots the board, and then the whole thing with "I love you, I know," that was all improvised. All of Harrison's best moments were all improvised.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
but Al Ehrenreich's not Harrison Ford.
That's the problem. They got stuck with the wrong actor.
Which Kathy insisted on after how many 300 people they looked at?
And in their defense as well, they had to hire a fucking acting coach, and it leaked out in the public.
All right, this guy really can't act. He's really bad at acting.
Perfect for a
get him an acting coach.
Perfect for a blockbuster.
I think you'll be perfect for the part.
Kathy, shut up. No one wants to know. Give me a cup of coffee, Kathy. Nobody cares what you think.
As Nelson Sharina says with $2, yes, it's true. This woman has no dick. I'm sorry. I know Robert Meyer Burnett loves Kathleen Kennedy to no end, and I love Robert Meyer Burnett to no end, but this whole article is basically saying what we've been saying all along. Kathleen Kennedy is the fucking problem. Pure
It's not hard.
It's mismanagement.
You're already talking with Kevin Feige possibly coming in to fix the equation.
Another sports reference, Uche. You're on a team and one of your coaches is not performing up to snuff, but you know that player is. What happens?
Kevin Gilbert.
Yeah, you get a new coach. You see the potential, and they're not optimizing the potential, so you get somebody who can. And really, if you look at a football team, it's the general manager who usually is, when you have to blow the whole thing up, the general manager has to go. Kathleen Kennedy's the GM. She's the general manager.
Exactly.
It's the progression of players. If the players aren't doing good, you get rid of the players. If the new ones aren't doing better, you get rid of the coaches and the coordinators. If it's not that, it's the manager, it's not the, and then it goes up to the ownership table.
Yeah, the head coach goes first. Players go first because it's, do you have the right talent? Then it is, who's directing the talent? Head coach. He's gone. Usually his staff goes with them. And then, or if they don't, if they keep a few coaches, they fire the head coach, the next person to go is the general manager. That means you're blowing the team up.
That's right.
But I love this little graph here because it shows you, I mean, we don't have to pay attention to this because we already know what happened over here. But this just shows you how many different people the revolving door has. What have I been saying, Rob? They have fired more people than they've hired.
That's right.
They've hired 2 and fired 6.
And she keeps hiring these guys who are team up directors. Oh, we're a team. You gotta hire us together. Whether you gotta go, what happens? Does the other guy hold your dick when you go pee at the same? Like, do we have any directors that can just direct on their own who aren't Ryan Johnson?
I get that, but in the defense of 2 directors, because like the Russo brothers make sense.
Yep.
And I don't think the Matrix would have been able to be made if you didn't have the Wachowskis. Well, now they're sisters, but you know what I mean. But I see that now, and that's kind of like, and you're not wrong, Mecca, because a movie should be a single director's vision. But when you get to a movie like a Marvel movie or something like that, where there's so many levels,
it. You've got a lot of like the B unit. You've got a lot.
Well, not just that. You want one of the directors who's more of a techie, and you want another director who can work with the talent.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, another director with vision and a director with structure.
But you got to make sure that vision.
But you got to make sure they meld.
It's got to be cohesive. Yeah.
It's like, heck, you don't see Feige doing this kind of stuff. You don't see him like firing everybody just because like they don't meet his vision or anything. It's not as sporadic. I'll say that.
No, he's only fired like 2 people, 3.
Man, yeah.
And I mean, Feige, you can tell he has a completely different kind of style. I mean, the guy he sets a structure first,
much different
before he does anything. Before he starts hiring people.
I have to question Kathleen Kennedy's devotion to the material. Kevin Feige, we know, loves Marvel. He has boxes of comics in his office. He's got all the shit. He knows Marvel inside and out.
He actually knows it. Yeah, he cares about the actual brand and the actual characters. Kathleen Kennedy, she has no knowledge of Star Wars, and it probably, we pretty much know that it's not something that she has any kind of real taste for. She doesn't care about it. She's a businesswoman. She doesn't really give a damn about what the lore is. She wants to set the agenda of the franchise moving forward to what's trendy in society, not what's actually compatible with the story that's been told.
Exactly.
The buzzword for that is relevant. She wants to be relevant, and as Critical Drinker said recently, when you try to be relevant, you risk becoming irrelevant.
No, and that's true. I mean, that's the thing, and I know we get accused of being Feige lovers here, but no, you can't argue. It's like trying to say that Michael Jordan was a bad basketball player or Brett Favre was a shitty quarterback. You can't say that. You cannot say that because it's not even a subjective thing.
It's beyond dispute.
It's like you can't
beyond dispute at this point.
Yeah, so it's the same thing with all this kind of shit here. Kevin Feige, for all his faults, they are outweighed by all the things that he's managed to pull off. And yes, there's been people like what's his face from Hulk who didn't come back, and Terrence Howard's situation, but those are between movies. Okay. I'm talking about where there was actually a situation where somebody was involved with the movie, got involved with the movie, and left or got fired.
Edgar Wright.
2 times that I think of are Edgar Wright and what was it, Bigelow or whatever on Thor 2.
Catherine Bigelow, yeah. No, just Patty Jenkins.
Patty Jenkins.
That's right. Thor, yeah.
Those are the only 2 times besides James Gunn, who ended up being rehired, and Feige didn't fire in the first place, that I can think of offhand where somebody was actually on board with the project and then got booted off later on. Now, we don't know what happened between the scenes also between whoever and Favreau too, to where he didn't direct Iron Man 3. I've not heard a definitive story on all that other than just the backlash to Iron Man 2.
Another thing too, that they've shown directors the door before they even start, like Ava DuVernay.
Yeah, exactly.
No, sorry.
We're talking about situations that derail a production. And when you have to fire a director, when you have to fire a team of people who have already started and started or at least started pushing forward their version of the next part of the franchise, it derails everything. You didn't see that in Marvel. Those things happen in between productions. Whereas with Star Wars, I mean, Kathleen Kennedy has fired people who are midway through, who had already done principal photography.
Days of shooting on Solo.
Exactly. Like the movie's already 3/4 of the way done.
You should be done. I mean, that part, maybe on Lord Miller, that I can't argue. But at the same time, when you're that far, you basically just bite the bullet and finish it off.
You got to take it. And again, for me, and how I am a fan of franchises like Star Wars and then also the DCEU, when you stop a vision and then you just take it in a different direction, all you're doing is creating a Frankenstein monster, and it just turns into a disaster.
Well, it's like right now, because James Gunn's working on his own Suicide Squad now, right?
Yeah, he's got the Suicide Squad.
Yeah, he's working on that one, and then this Birds of Prey with the Emancipation of Harley Quinn, or whatever the title is, the long stupid name for it. But
nobody gets
that's following the lineage of the Goyer Suicide Squad. So what's the point of seeing this movie? Like, this is my take. What's the point of seeing Birds of Prey now if you're just going to revamp it for Suicide Squad or Gun Suicide Squad? What's the point?
Birds of Prey is more so. Here's the thing with Warner Brothers, that's a little bit different animal. They're like soft rebooting everything over there. Birds of Prey is one of the only movies that's really going to have much connection to its original film, and that's just to set up Harley Quinn on her own with Joker breaking up with her. That's it.
Yeah, they're just trying to create that. Finalize that separation
because it's really Harley Quinn the movie.
It is. You're right.
Yeah, it's really her movie. Yeah.
And now, do I think it's going to be any good? Oh, fuck no. I think it's going to be a bigger disaster than Suicide Squad was. Now, James Gunn's Suicide Squad, that's basically ignoring the first movie and revamping everything. And there's like 3 or 4 characters that are the same actors. But as far as I've been hearing, that is a from the ground up reboot.
Again, I
think I've got high expectations for that movie.
Yes,
I think they're gunning for an not pun intended, gunning for an R rating too on that,
which I think would be also a good move to make because you can have that movie play out kind of in the same tone and kind of look as like The Boys, the television show.
Well, and now with the Joker making $1 billion, there's no reason for them not to take a chance on it.
Oh yeah, you'll see a lot of R-rated movies now.
Again, the stigma that R ratings will kill your movie, it's stupid. It's
dead. It's dead.
No, your whole audience is like over 30 at this point.
Well, Deadpool really
was
the death nail of that. It's like, because it was like, I know you don't like it very much, Mecca, but It was well received by the audience.
Oh, I get
You
why people
had-
like it. Yeah.
You know, it was a huge surprise hit. Nobody, if you would have told me that a Deadpool movie would have made more than $500 million, I'd have balked.
Hell
I mean,
yeah, right.
Suicide Squad did what? Like almost what? Suicide Squad did like 700 million.
Suicide Squad didn't do bad.
It didn't
That
do
was
bad.
technically the only DC movie to make any money.
and it won an Oscar for like,
Well, yeah, and then there's that
Yeah.
shitty Oscar it won for some dumb reason.
yeah.
Yes, yes.
Don't get me wrong. I actually have like of all the. I know Uche, you're a huge Snyder fan and all that stuff. I'm not.
I'm a huge DC fan.
And I'm a huge
Snyder,
DC
too.
fan in general. But out of those movies we've gotten, Suicide Squad was the only one that I could actually watch all the way through and just didn't make me mad. All like there's bits of it that make me
See,
mad.
I couldn't watch Suicide Squad all the way through. I got this. I didn't like it. There were scenes that I liked, but overall, I thought it was, it felt more like the third act felt like a TV movie.
Oh yeah, it's a mess. But basically, to me, if you took the Joker out of it, it'd been a much better movie, or made him the main bad guy, one or the other.
Which
But I
is
don't
kind
like
of
Leto's
what we
Joker.
were hoping for. I was hoping that he was the main villain from the very outset of it.
Well,
'Cause that made more sense.
after although I was thinking the same thing, and then I saw Jared Leto, and then I'm like, okay, no, you can push him off by helicopter or wherever. He can go. He can go.
Look, I will say one thing in Jared Leto's defense. There were aspects of that Joker that I could see the potential in.
There's
Like,
the abusive side of him is where, like, okay, that's a real point. That's a real thing of the Joker that we really.
But they cut most of that out.
yeah.
they cut out so much of the Joker from the movie that you don't really. He doesn't have any impact, and that's the problem with that character more so than what Jared Leto did. Because I think, again, if we see everything he did, it's probably a completely different vibe that we get from him. He only had like what, 3 or 4 scenes that were longer than 30, 40 seconds. I mean,
Right.
it was nothing, man. I mean, you can't really, that's why I can understand people who hate it, but at the same time, I don't hold it against Jared Leto because what kind of real opportunity did he have? Joker has been the centerpiece of every movie he's been in, even on the TV show. Every episode he's in, he's the centerpiece.
Yep.
So when he's eschewed off as a B-rate character in the movie and gets less screen time as the highest billable actor on that entire roster of actors with an Academy Award,
Besides Will
what do you
Smith
expect?
anyway, but yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah, besides Will Smith, but
And I gotta imagine he's a big part of the box office too. But anyway,
Oh,
sorry, you were gonna say that.
like it also makes, like you said, like you're just reduced to a B. Was it the one of not Marvel, but one of DC's biggest arch enemies of all time, the Joker himself, reduced to a B character in this movie. Same thing again. It's just like going to the Justice League and like the DCEU treatment of like, oh well, Batman's non-essential. We're not going to have a film about Batman, and that really took me by surprise. I'm like, you really don't want to do a new Batman now before we get to Justice League?
Well, think about whose fault is this? Like when we're looking at it, people talk about, oh, they didn't like the movies. But think about what's the real underlying reason as to why a lot of the DCU didn't work from the start? Warner Brothers. Because you have a bunch of businessmen at the top making the decisions who are worried about bonuses, who are worried about, being able to get their golden parachute. And, they throw the story to the side. It's not that much different than what you see coming out of Lucasfilm.
Right.
People who don't care about the stories, who don't care about the characters, who ultimately and unfortunately have the final say. You cut 30 minutes out of BVS. You cut 90% of Justice League. You had a freaking trailer company edit Suicide Squad. I mean, what did you expect to get when you do these things to people who are actually trying to create some kind of art? Like you get discombobulated messes.
Well, one thing I have to say about the whole, I don't know where this 90% of Justice League got thrown out business.
Well, that's coming from the cinematographer who said that they only use 10% of Snyder's work.
They can't,
as far as the story
that's
went.
not how it works though, because if as a director, for him to get credit, he has to have directed more than 50% of the movie.
Yeah.
So there's at least 50% of that movie's his stuff. I mean, I get that. I guess I'm trying to figure out, because I've heard other people say that too. I mean, I guess I get what you're saying as far as like all the stuff they didn't use.
The essence of the story was completely broken down.
Yeah,
now.
but see, that's the thing I keep trying to, because like the way the way that it went though is when Joss Whedon was brought in and all that stuff, the story already started to get compromised, and I don't think he had a full cut. He had a collection of what an assembly cut or whatever, but I don't think it was a finished film. I think there was still stuff that needed to be filmed. And when they brought Joss Whedon in, that changed things. And then when he was taken off completely, then Joss Whedon come in and reshot, a bunch of it. But I think they said it was only about 40%. Otherwise, he would have got director credit. But again, I don't know.
No, I heard those same
from,
things.
so.
I heard those same things as well, as far as getting the credit and everything. No, I was just citing basically. I think that's the latest or one of the latest things that was said.
I wonder if somebody's misinterpreting what he means. Maybe they meant that they just didn't use.
They didn't use the essence of it. I mean, maybe they're looking at it from that perspective. I don't know.
Because it can't be only 10% of his footage.
No, it wouldn't be 10% of the actual footage. Just they moved. It's like BVS, right? Like you look at BVS. The theatrical cut is edited completely differently than the Ultimate Edition. The Ultimate Edition storylines are more paralleled and aligned more cohesively than what you saw in the theater. That's why the theater BVS and the theatrical cut was always bouncing around from one end of the spectrum to the other, and things just kind of got you could lose it if you didn't watch the movie from a certain perspective. So.
Right. Well, yeah, and like you said, it equates to this too, and that's what you have. You have this story group that we keep hearing about, but they already pointed out in this article, as we've been reporting at Midnight's Edge and others have reported, there's two regimes there. There's two factions, or whatever you want to call it, to where there's a group of people who are loyal to Star Wars and Lucas, and then there's these other people who are loyal to Kennedy and her agenda. And we see this in Star Trek, we see this in a few of the other franchises we cover, and a lot of these people are just brought in. They have no real credentials to be working on these things. They're just there to fill some diversity hire, or fill some quota, or a Wokemon as Mecca likes to call them.
Heck, freaking what is it, Marvel Entertainment Publishing in a nutshell.
Pretty much.
Marvel's going that way too. I mean, I feel like Phase 4 is going to be just a whole lot of wokeness.
Yeah, our good friend Script Doctor says, maybe, I think he meant only 10% of what Snyder wanted to achieve up in the final product. And Script Doctor is a recent good friend of the channel, and he also said he worked on Suicide Squad. Everyone hated it, hated making it. In fact, the fact that it made money blew everyone away, if I could read. So, that's an interesting situation. Who
was the director of Suicide Squad again?
Originally, it was David Ayer
from Fury, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Man,
but then who was it that they said that came in and reshot a bunch of shit though? It wasn't David Ayer. I can't remember who. But yeah, I'd have to go back to the Midnight's Edge video. I can't even remember anymore. It's been so long. But yeah, somebody came in and finished shooting the movie too there. And it's a lot of the same shit we're seeing here. The only person who's been able to go from beginning to end besides JJ has been Rian fucking Johnson. And what do we get out of it? The biggest clusterfuck in history. And they point out they didn't have a plan. Well, they had a plan, but they threw it out the window to let Rian Johnson make his fucking art house movie in the middle of Star Wars.
This is where I use the Paul Feig This is where I use the Paul Feig defense again, because you just have this, like, he's good at making these other films, but this is where you see that disassociative ability to work with franchise materials and just completely make a clusterfuck out of it.
Yeah, and I'm the only person. Shut up, Ryan. I'm about to praise your movie, and I feel very dirty for it. So shut up. No, I actually saw Knives Out to see if it was going to be good or not, and I surprisingly enjoyed it. Keep him away from Star Wars. Who the crap thought that was a good idea? Oh yeah, that's right, the coffee girl.
I think that if Rian Johnson doesn't, attack the fans and go after the fandom the way he did after The Last Jedi, he may have, he may have gotten a second chance from some of the fan base with the movie like Knives Out, because at the end of the day, he just is not the right fit for a Star Wars movie. It's not that he's a bad director. Yeah. It's just that he is
he's just a jerk.
Yeah, he's just not what he wanted to do. Like, anybody who cares about Star Wars at all sitting him down to kind of evaluate whether or not they want to hire him, they're going to say, this guy's not really, he's a fan, but he's not really, you know, the direction he wants to go, not really what we're looking for. We need to kind of keep this thing in line with, you know, with The Force Awakens. And
with a Mandalorian, like to go into like the Mandalorian aspect where like this feel like I know that each individual episode is differently directed by another individual, but at least there's the writing there to back up like what Favreau's
Mandalorian,
doing.
yeah, and that's what we were talking about with bringing up Feige and how this needs to be ran and how you can't just let some director come in and go willy-nilly all over the project. And I think Uche's right. I think the biggest thing here is if Ryan would have just kept his mouth shut and stayed under a rock, people wouldn't have liked this movie, but we wouldn't have been attacking him.
Yeah.
Per se. I mean, we'd attacked his writing, but I mean, I don't think it would have been as much of a polarizing experience. I really don't.
Again,
I feel like there would have been this huge kind of debate going on instead of this, you know, fuck you thing going back and forth between people. You know, it's like, that's where the Mandalorian's a perfect example. Yes, there are people who love the show. There are people who like the show, and there are people who downright hate the show or, you know, have issues with certain characters and aspects of the show. Guess what, though? We're not sitting here griping about the behind-the-scenes bullshit.
Yeah. It's not like Jon Favreau's going to Twitter and saying, fuck you guys.
Exactly, and Jeremy pointed this out, too, you know, on Geeks and Gamers. He's the first one I remember saying it, but I'm sure many of us have said it since. That's the best part about this, is we're not arguing over, you know, whether or not Ryan Johnson's an asshole or not, or about Rose Tico, or some agenda, or the feminist bullshit with Haldo, or, you know, all that kind of crap, or Ryan Johnson coming out and telling us some shit, or calling us, you know, incest, racist, homophobes, or some shit like that, and Trump-loving, you know, whatevers. And ists and phobes, as Mecca likes to say. But if he would have just, you know, kept it quiet, I think we would have been debating the movie a lot more like we are debating Mandalorian now, instead of worried about all the politics, is what he was saying. And I think that's the biggest problem, is you have too much of this agenda in a Big Mac. And I get it. We've come to the McDonaldization of Star Wars. We already kind of were there with the prequels, but what McDonald's has done now is try to put some new kind of secret sauce on the Big Mac. It's like, yes, we're not saying we want the exact same thing every time. Yeah, we're going to get a little different every time. Maybe I'm not going to get lettuce this time. Maybe I'm going to get extra pickles, but it's still got to have that secret sauce. Yeah. You went and you took that secret sauce and you mixed it with fucking vinegar and all kinds of other nasty shit now. You know what
things
I mean?
that don't go on a fucking burger.
Exactly. Like
exactly.
No, and you know, look, to be fair to him, I'll say, hey, come out, you can defend your movie. That's fine. Defend it. Defend it on on your vision as an artist, as a creator. But don't slander the fans. Don't slander the people who have invested in the stories that have been going on now for over, you know, almost 40 years. Don't slander the fans because we weren't on the same page as your vision.
We buy we buy
you know, we're the ones who are, yeah, exactly. We buy the merchandise. You know, I would have bought 4 lightsabers instead of 3.
Take a look. I'm sorry, Uche. Sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, man. No, you're good, man. No, that's my whole point. My whole point is just basically he could have defended the movie without really enraging the fan base.
Defend it on its merits.
Defend
not
it
like
on
saying,
its merits. Don't say
don't
that
be like, oh, you're just an
humpers.
ugly face or a mecha troll face because you don't like what I like.
Yeah, it's like, dude, you're going lower than we were even going. So now we got to go down. We got to get under and dig lower than you, because you can't even hold your chin up and say, hey, you know, I did the best I could. You know, if the fans don't like it, hey, you know, that's fine.
Yeah,
but
you're right.
You know, take a look at Joel Schumacher, what he said, what he keeps saying to this day about his Batman movie. You know what? We worked really hard. I'm sorry. It wasn't what the fans like, but you know,
he takes the bullet for that fucker. He flat out says, it is my fault. We forced it into production. I didn't, you know, say anything to stop it. They were more worried about getting the toys out in time. Mm-hmm. The movie was revolving around the toys, and that is completely on me, and I apologize for that. He's apologized time and time and time again for that movie. That's how you do it. You say, hey, I fucked up. I made a mistake. That's all Ryan Johnson had to do, is come out like, look, I heard you guys. You didn't like The Force Awakens, those who didn't, because it was too much like the original Star Wars. So I tried to do something different, and evidently for a lot of people it didn't work. That's all he had to say.
But
all he had to say.
Now you have
Didn't
to
resonate with fans, blah blah blah. We
We
made the
might
best.
still have a trilogy.
And this is where you like in these franchise films, why you see Paul Feig doing the same thing. You have Ryan Johnson doing the same thing. Like, just you can't lash at the fans like this. Yes, the fans are going to give you gripe and guff for it, but you have to look like the better person. If you don't, you're not going to have a leg to stand on.
Well, and it takes a lot of us by surprise because it's the first time in history. And not to go back to the old fast food thing again, but it's something I always bring up, and it's true. This is the first time in the history of the world where I've ever seen a situation where the consumer is treated like shit. Imagine walking into McDonald's, like I said, and getting a Big Mac and saying, look, this just doesn't taste right.
Cheeseburger in your face. Like, here, take the fucking cheeseburger.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you're racist for not liking that. It's like, no. Seriously, there's something wrong with this. It doesn't taste. No, shut up. It's you.
No, this burger's undercooked. Why
You want to come back here and make it?
Yeah, please.
Oh, please. I can do it.
No, it's your fucking job. You do it.
It's rare to see the zeros behind their paychecks and go, well, if you want me to do it, I'll do it for practically free.
Well, that's why movie people and all that kind of stuff always used to kiss our... Yeah, sure, they can talk all the shit they want in private. You know, I'm sure Uche with, same thing with like dealing with fans. You can't go out there and just go, fuck you, motherfucker, if it's a fan.
You'll be getting pelted with fucking drinks on your way out the stadium.
Let alone before a movie even comes out. It's suicide. It's marketing suicide.
I wish more people in show business were sports fans because that teaches you how to deal with losing. It teaches you how to, team environment.
Well, you have too many of these new kids coming out of like their little everybody gets a trophy
ribbon generation.
Yeah, yes. And they're the ones running Star Trek too. All these people, they're like, oh, you're just an isnophobe. I mean, we still have people defending Ghostbusters 2016 and yelling at us, calling us we're a bunch of regressive fanboys or whatever the crap they're calling us.
And just to kind of equate it again to sports, I mean, we're trained from our rookie year to deal with the media. And one of the things that the coaches and these experts who come in and spend hours with you during training camp telling you how to talk to the media, the first thing they tell you is never, don't single them out and don't speak badly of them because they can be your best friend or they can be your worst enemy. And when you're trying to speak to the fans, that's the connection to the fans is through the media. So don't put something out there that is going to anger both the media and the fans, because from that point on, you're now categorized as this kind of player. He's an asshole.
Exactly.
And you have to prove people wrong for the rest of your career.
Oh, the NFL gives you extensive media training. So does the NBA. I mean, geez.
Coach YouTube would, because we have to deal with these assholes too in the media. They're writing hit pieces on us all the time. I'm like, dude, I don't even make like retail money on YouTube. Like, I'm nobody. What the hell are you writing a hit piece on me for? Like, am I that threatening to you? Apparently we are.
and again, like after the game, if it's a bad game, if you had a shitty game, well, once you get into the locker room after the game, there's 15 minutes to decompress before the media comes in and starts badgering everyone with questions. That's the time you got to take to kind of center yourself and make sure that you can be professional when you're speaking with these people, because they're going to put that word out to the fans. If you come off like a dick, the fans are going to think you're a dick. When the fans see you out, they're going to look at you funny because they think you're an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe movie studios should take a tip from the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, the NHL. Maybe they should have some sort of media training.
Yeah, because this is also a part of a highly stressful event too, when coming out or doing social media.
High pressure, yeah.
Mm-hmm. There is that, but again, exactly like that. Just instead of doing the company picnic, do a company outing with these professionals that know exactly what you can do and what you shouldn't do.
Well, the first problem is you have social media.
And they listen to those people, like the 5 or 6 blue check marks.
Right. Yeah.
The number one thing that tell us to do when we're as athletes, stay off social media. That's what they all say. Do not go on social media when you're after a game. Don't go on social media during a game. And when you're pissed off, the last thing you want to do is hit the send button on anything.
Exactly.
And here's so you have that aspect of it. And before this, and even still to this day, the studios kind of controlled the flow of information when it came to the media anyway. What they didn't equate on is guys like us. Mm-hmm. See, we didn't fit into that equation, and what we do is we disrupt the narrative, to quote Miss Mary Mayhem. And in that sense, they don't know how to deal with us. So they're like a kid who's been caught in a lie and don't know how to get out of it outside of just screaming and hollering and kicking and trying to make a distraction. And that's exactly what they're doing.
They scream and holler and they yell, "You're an ist, you're a phobe, you're a racist, you're a sexist, you're a misogynist, you're this." It's shut up. We're not.
It's the toddler factor where we're the toddler that keeps going why, and it's the never-ending why, and then the parent wrongly lashes out instead of just basically saying, "Okay, because that's why."
Because I said so. That's why.
Yeah.
Because you're not smart enough to outthink me yet. That's why. You will be soon.
Well, and that's why they hate the fans, because we know more about this shit than they do.
Care.
Yeah.
We care about this.
Well, they're stuck in their old ways in how they, the process of putting a film together and marketing a film. So, they think that this is something that it's a science when it's really more common sense. Like, you want people's money, so do everything you can to get their money, which means keeping them happy, keeping them sated, and and giving them something to look forward to.
Right.
You don't give them something to look forward to, and then you tell them, well, it's their fault that they didn't like it. Well, now you just lost a customer.
Not to turn this into like a sappy Disney afternoon special, but again, you do need to have some heart in this. Otherwise, it shows that it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the biggest problem, is it doesn't have any heart at all. And just so we kind of know, I mean, I'm not going to try and drag this out too far, but just so we know how we got here in Hollywood. I mean, when Hollywood first started out, the studios were ran basically kind of how like they run television studios. You had, your top brass and your actors and your crews and your directors were all under contract, and they made movies like they made TV shows, quick, and you use the same sets and a lot of the same actors and a lot of the same, everything just across the board. Well, then when a lot of the old moguls started dying out and selling off, they started selling off to like beverage companies and shit like that. People who didn't really know how to make movies.
The Coca-Cola conundrum.
But they did know how to market shit.
Yes.
So what happened then, they're like, oh, you, George Lucas, go make me a Star Wars. You, Martin Scorsese, go make me a bunch of, like all his movies, like Taxi Driver, and so on down the road. And De Palma, do this. And you had these auteur directors who could make really good movies out of really good stories. And there was a lot of talented people working together. And they're like, I don't know what this is, but just go make me more of this. And then we'll market it. And we know how to market shit. We know how to make it look flashy. We know how to make it look good. And we'll get butts in the seats. And that's why we had the 80s. Okay, that's where the 80s came out of, was a lot of this, I don't know what the fuck it is, just give me more of it. Because at that time the studios didn't. But then in the late 80s, early 90s, then they started pretending that they knew how to make movies. And then you had all these big conglomerates coming in and buying it, like Sony and all these other companies that moved in. And it's like, well, then it became more of these corporations, and they started running it like, I think Uche was kind of alluding to this, kind of like everything's run by a boardroom, but it's all run by the number. It's all charts and graphs, and
it's all strategy. It's all strategy, and it's all about optimizing that bottom line. And obviously, with a brand like Star Wars, merchandise is the bottom line for that movie, even more so than the box office.
Yes, and that's where these companies got involved. Was the merchandising and shit was a big deal.
Yeah.
Like going back to the whole Sony thing, because that I'm big on like knowing the history of it. Like, one of the reasons they even purchased it was that they found a way that they could market their consumer electronics right in the movies.
Well, it worked in more than one way. First of all, like you said, they could market their products in the movies
and use their own products to make the movies.
And use their own products to make the movies, and you watch their products or watch their movies on their products. That was the other thing. That was why Spider-Man 3 was the biggest selling Blu-ray for the longest time, because it came boxed with the PS3. and that counted as a sale.
Yeah.
Okay, they know these things, and they use that like Uche was saying to every advantage. It's like every corner they can cut, every advantage they can have, every
monetize everything.
The PS3 actually had the same font as the Spider-Man movies.
Yeah.
Synergy.
It's exactly what it was. That word was created by the movie industry. Nikki D, $5. Is there any merit to the Brie Larson Star Wars casting rumors? I don't think so. But we will find out soon.
I won't be surprised because they've been dropping her name and hinting, and she's one of their kind of preferred celebrities over in the Disney camp. She has that rapport with Kevin Feige, so I wouldn't count her out 100%.
I'm hoping she's too busy with Captain Marvel too, because I've actually been hearing some movement on that. So
yeah.
I mean, what is she gonna do? What kind of role do you give her?
Ahsoka.
Well, let's ask her. Brie, what are you going to do?
Yeah, they're going to make her Ahsoka Tano.
Oh my
I'm
God.
gonna be a soaking wet
Give me a teenager to play Ahsoka Tano. Give me a teenager, not Brie Larson. Her head's too big.
They're gonna paint me orange and put wieners on my head. I'm gonna look like a creamsicle.
Like, what is it?
Shut up!
I mean, to be fair, she's kind of hot in that little picture right there. I'm not gonna lie, but when you see her face in movement, it's like, what the hell?
She's the body.
I just want to be people.
I just want to be people.
I think I'm people.
Oh, she thinks she's people. How cute.
Her ass is so flat, it makes me want to go to IHOP.
Yeah, she has nothing back there. It's like, Jesus Christ.
Up and down the stairs.
How does Tom Holland have a nicer ass than you?
Not America's ass, but it's British's
ass.
Yeah, because Captain America is America's ass. Thank you very much.
Oh my.
They even said it in the movie. Nice little dig to you there, Brie.
The one time I went into Endgame, I just nodded. No, yeah, I actually agree with that. That is America's ass right there. Los Angeles Kings fan, and he brings up, like, honestly, I wouldn't mind if Coca-Cola owned Columbia again. Actually, they wanted out of owning Columbia. Like, they didn't like doing the whole aspect. They thought that they could do it. And little Ghostbusters trivia, they almost were the reason that Ghostbusters could have possibly never happened in the first place.
Yeah, Roberto Goizueta wasn't too crazy about it. Who was CEO of Coca-Cola at the time.
But hey, they were cuckoo about it afterward. All that high Sietto cooler.
Okay, I don't want to drag this out too much longer because I'm sure Uche has more important things to do than hang out with idiots like us.
Dude, it's 9:00. I ain't got shit to do.
Okay, good. I don't want to keep you if you do, because this is a juicy bit from this article here. The bitter political fights dividing the U.S. have spilled over to the reactions to the movies, which is true.
Yep.
But this is gonna get to the part now. Hold your shit, Mecca, until I'm done. especially, I know you're ready. Just coil cobra, stay calm. Especially when that's right. Just have a bit and just let me finish, and then I'll let you off the leash. Just hang on. Especially when it comes to some of the new movie's female characters. Kelly Marie Tran, a daughter of Vietnamese refugees who joined the franchise with The Last Jedi, said she left social media 6 months after the movie's release due to unrelenting racist and sexist harassment from Star Wars fans who didn't think she belonged in the films. Okay, Mecca.
Oh, good for you.
Can you show me any quote where she ever said that ever? Because I found the original marketing account that was responsible for starting that rumor. And it's somebody who on their LinkedIn profile has hundreds of thousands of Twitter impressions, and that is their specialty. That is what they were hired to do. So I have never found any quote. And there's a New York Times article that even doesn't quote any of that. It has no direct questions. And her answers really seem like they're answering, about magazines and directors.
Yes. and the way she stated in the film is she didn't live up to the expectations of Hollywood standards. She
meaning rail thin, big Pez dispenser head.
Yep.
Had nothing to do with fans. Didn't say anything about the fans. Drove me off of social media. Just like a few months later when they tried to run the narrative that Daisy was bullied off of social media, which she said, no, I just don't have time for it. Because probably, guess what? Her publicist probably told her, get the fuck off social media, right, Uche?
Exactly. No, that's how it is.
More educated publicist. There you go.
There you go.
Last thing you want to do is be on social media fighting with people about a movie that you had a very small role in. Well, won't say very small role, but you didn't have a leading role in. Like, last thing you want to do is get into a battle with them. That's like getting into a battle with Patriots fans on Twitter, like I did 2 years ago.
And when you are a supporting role actor and you did not have a character that fared well on the screen, you go to the bunker.
Yeah, you just go hide out for a few months.
That even applies to lead role characters. If anything happens like that, you either try to softly diffuse it and say, hey, I understand you didn't like it. But again, that bunker is still an option.
And anyway, so they go into a little bit of spin here. And we try to keep it as spin-free as possible, even though people say we do have spin. Well, we're just being honest with our opinions. It's the difference between having an opinion and when we actually talk about the news, we try to be as fair as balanced as possible. And this is what I'm going to say. They go on the fact here, the storylines of both current trilogies and the spin-off Rogue One released in 2016 revolve around a heroine and have multiple central female characters. A big shift from the original movies in which Princess Leia was the only noteworthy female character. What other noteworthy female character was there in Rogue One besides Jyn Erso? Please tell me. Name her.
No.
The droid was a pan with
that was in Solo. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So again, I'm waiting for the answer of who the other female character in Rogue One was besides Princess Leia. Anybody can answer anytime because you can't.
They had what's their name, Mon Mothma or whatever the crap.
Okay, besides people that already existed in the universe because they didn't. That's bullshit. They're creating a false fucking narrative to support the next narrative they're going to set up here. Nobody really disliked Rogue One. That's the one thing that they are not fucking pointing out. Nobody had a fucking problem with Rogue One. Nobody necessarily had a problem with female characters. It was how Rey was being utilized. Then they take some quote out of context from a fan. I'm all for equality, said Anthony Ergo, a 42-year-old fan from Liverpool, England. But I felt like it was the promotion of female characters, but at the expense of male characters. Now, that is a very broad quote taken completely out of context, if you ask me.
I mean, but hold on, but based on what we know, based on what Kathleen Kennedy has said, based on the things she's done in public, I think that's pretty accurate.
It is, but
they're so heavy-handed with how they wanted to force these female characters in front of us when they could have done it in a much more organic way, something that lent itself to the story, and people wouldn't have noticed. If you spoon feed people little bits, they're not going to notice those changes. But when you bring the whole main course out, and it's just, here's a big tray of feminism and woman power, it's like, really?
I know, Rob, you want to say something, but I got to say this. Here's the problem I have with this quote and how they're using it. Nobody had a fucking problem with Rey being a woman.
No.
The problem is that she was a black belt Jedi day one out the gate when Luke only barely used the Force once or twice in the first movie, couldn't lift a fucking rock and Yoda and a bunch of other shit at the same time in the second movie, couldn't get his X-Wing out of the water, failed at every fucking turn, got his ass handed to him by his dad, and got his hand actually handed to him by his dad. And didn't even really use the Force all that much in Return of the Jedi, okay? Here's Rey. She could fucking just boom. That's the problem people have. It has nothing to do with what's between her legs.
And Luke was the freaking son of the chosen one.
Yeah.
That's right.
Exactly.
If there was anybody who was going to be, an unstoppable force from the outset, it would have been him. Because he's the son of the person with the most midichlorians at a higher level than even Yoda.
And what does he have? He has weaknesses. He has moments where you think that he can lose.
Yeah.
There are moments where he does lose.
Yeah.
He loses his fucking hand.
Him and his father both got handed their asses when they went up against people who had years and decades of experience.
And truth is, what is it? The truth is, Anakin lost.
Yeah.
He lost.
Anakin lost to Dooku. He lost to, he lost to Obi-Wan. I mean,
He lost Padme. He lost everything.
He lost everything.
He lost his soul.
And that's part of what has added to the relatability and the popularity of Vader is that deep down, he is a lonely, broken soul, and he has nothing. He's engulfed himself in the dark side because it's the only thing he can do at this point.
Almost like a coping mechanism if I'm going to get in my lounge chair and, start smoking.
But think about the symbolism behind Darth Vader, though. He fell to the dark side. Now he's encased in a suit where he will never feel the sunlight.
He'll never be human again.
Exactly. Think about the symbolism.
Consequences of it. The consequences that he had to suffer for the power that he wanted.
Mm-hmm. He was forever, like I said, encased in that suit.
Well, yeah, the whole first trilogy and the second trilogy are all about consequences. Remember what Yoda says to Luke?
Was it fear leads to...
Well, no. That's from the prequels. But when he goes, I got to go save my friends. And he's like, save them you can, but sacrifice everything that they have fought for.
Mm.
So
basically saying you're being selfish.
Yep.
And you're not thinking about the bigger picture. And that in the end is what you're damaging by going out there and trying to save your friends.
Yeah, he's saying, you're walking right into a fucking trap, Luke. What are you doing? This is like the bully after school who's trying to goat you into a fight, and you're just going to go give him exactly what he wants. And that's exactly what he wants. He wants Luke, and that's what Yoda's trying to tell him is you're not ready. You're not ready to defend yourself from this guy. He's a hell of a lot more dangerous than you think he is. He doesn't even know he's his father yet at this point.
Yeah, he doesn't.
Yoda and Obi-Wan know this, and they know that's going to be a big, point of contention when that's being brought to the table. And they probably already know from foreseeing it in the Force that Vader's probably going to tell him this because he thinks that's the one thing that's going to turn him to the dark side.
Yeah.
And it outright weakens him in Empire Strikes Back. It completely diffuses him. Luke does not know what to do with that knowledge at that point where he's hanging on by an arm. He doesn't know what to do. He's been destroyed.
You just see the pain in him. I mean, at the end of the day, when you look at Star Wars, the first 6 episodes, it's a Greek tragedy. It's the hero who's fallen from grace and is now a slave to his own selfish impulses.
Yeah, he started life as a slave and he ended life as a slave.
Yeah, a total space odyssey.
And he's redeemed by his son.
He's redeemed by his son, exactly. And people will say, "Oh, well, Luke wasn't the chosen one. Anakin was the chosen one from at the beginning and at the end." And to see his redemption, that brought everything full circle, and it gave a fitting conclusion to that portion of the saga and paying its respect to the sacrifice, the loss that Vader had, and his ability to regain his humanity through his son.
Mm-hmm. So in other words, he's RoboCop. Well, see, and I'm not even the biggest fan of Return of the Jedi. I love it, don't get me wrong, but I mean, as far as on the level of the rest of the movies, it's not in the top of my list. But I'll always argue that I believe that there was a little bit more going on in that final fight than we even give Lucas. I don't even think he was aware of it at the time of writing it, because that's where he kind of hit a lot of brick walls in the writing. But I think it's very telling when you think about it. All Vader had to do to win was just let Luke kill the Emperor. He's the one who stops Luke from killing the Emperor. Yeah. Okay. And in that moment, he's saving his son from going to the dark side.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of a struggle within Vader. It's this whole thing to where it's like, it gives the whole fight a bigger overall arc to where you stop to think like, wait a minute, this fight would have been over and done with, and Luke would have totally gone to the dark side because he gave in and killed the Emperor. He went in with his impulses and all that kind of shit, and Vader would have been able to manipulate him the rest of the way from there. But I don't think Vader wanted to. I think that was kind of the whole thing was, you can look at it from the aspect, oh yeah, he just didn't want to relinquish his power, but that was not the point. The point that he said was, you're supposed to rule the galaxy with me, because they sense how powerful Luke is, and the potential he has, just like he did at that young age. So there's this whole struggle of inner turmoil going that, that a lot of people don't look at, and we could wax intellectual about for days when it comes to Star Wars. But that's the problem, that they don't put that kind of thought into these new movies. Like even Lucas, even though he was kind of doing it off the cuff in a lot of ways, still had more passion and thought put into this, even though he has a real shitty time at putting it down on paper and putting it on celluloid and needs extra hands. And that's why the prequel shows that there's a good story in the prequels. It was just handled by somebody who had a bunch of yes men around him. That's the biggest problem and he even knows that by the time you get near the end of it, because he's like, I can't fix it now.
And also, and for me, this is the only bright part, the only bright side of what Disney has done with the franchise, and that is the comic books. And in particular, the Vader comics, because in the Vader comics, even they add a little bit of context to the struggle that Vader was having between the persona of Vader and that little flicker of tiny light at the bottom that was Anakin. And they actually conceptualize that in the comic books, where Vader goes into his meditation chamber. And in that meditation, you see the representations of darkness that is Vader. And off in the distance, in this realm that he's in his mind, you see these little flickers of light that are shaped like butterflies. And his dark essence is trying to destroy those little flickers of lights. He's reliving in his mind the battle with Obi-Wan every day, every night, losing Padme, his moments as the chosen one. And there's a literal battle between what is Vader and what is Anakin, and he's trying to bury that. Palpatine is trying to help him bury that as much as he can to try and extinguish it. And that action that he makes to stop Luke from actually striking down Palpatine is that light of Anakin, forcing itself back up to the surface and taking control. Metaphorically speaking, that's really where it just adds so much depth to the story of Vader, and that's more of a credit to the individuals that actually wrote those comics and put the story arcs together for Vader. But why aren't these kind of people being consulted in the movement of the franchise and how to move it forward? These people have good ideas, and they're just Kathleen Kennedy is she's basically just been negligent with the entire handling of the franchise, because she has been the one dictating the direction of the story, not the people who actually know it.
It's where these characters just start to look more like toys instead of people.
Well,
it's all about what can you bank on, what can you bank with merchandise.
Well, and to answer your question, Uche, they don't want fans working on this stuff. They're a hindrance because they have too much passion. They have too much direction.
Well, we have too much money then too. So know what? We'll have to pay money for their stuff.
But a lot of people I've talked to in the Star Trek world and other places, they've said flat out, the first thing you don't want to do when you go in, if you want to work on Star Trek, is tell them you're a Star Trek fan. And that's because they know you're going to be difficult. And that's the problem, is that's where I think this breakdown behind the scenes with Star Wars is. You have this group of people that are like, no, we know this stuff. We've been working on it, because a lot of them are people who've worked on the Clone Wars and behind the scenes of the Star Wars prequels and all that kind of shit's still there. And then you have all the KK's people. And did we hit this super chat yet, Rob? Matt G's $2. Anakin lost multiple times during Clone Wars show to Dooku.
No,
we talked about that earlier, but yeah.
They paid, him and his son both paid with blood because of their inexperience. They lost limbs.
Also, several female characters lose big in that show. Several. Ahsoka loses how many times? That's how you.
The Jedi are mortal. They're mortal, and they have flaws, and they fail, and that's part of their downfall, is that they're fighting to keep control. They're fighting to keep stability, to keep themselves in their own positions of power, which is a very human and very selfish perspective, and that's part of the hubris that led to them falling.
It's really it's not hard to make these characters be, flawed. It isn't. But I mean, this is like Rey is a flawed character. But
flawed the wrong way.
Flawed the wrong way. Exactly.
She's flawed from the structural standpoint of even building a character.
It's like you're starting a D&D character and the dungeon master is a total dick. And he just gives this he put his own character in. And he's like, oh, max stats.
He's the guy where you sat there all week building and making your character, and then the first day he fucking kills you. Yeah, exactly. I know exactly. That's one of the reasons why I don't play fucking D&Ds, because every dungeon master I ever played with a few times I did was nothing but a dick. So I'm like, screw this shit.
That's exactly the same thing that they're doing with like all the teen franchises, though, that are directed towards girls. Though they're all these sort of blank self-insert characters, and I think it's not that it's like the bad DM character so much. It's just that she is the cosplay thing. They need to be as non-character like as they possibly can, so that all these girls can identify with them, so they can put themselves in that role, and so they can go over to Target and buy a $20 costume. That's all they're for.
It's the it's the empowerment aspect too, because remember, that was the whole selling point of 2016 GB. Just like, oh well, these girls need something to look up to. Like, no, if you give a character, like, despite male, female, or whatever, like, whatever you give them, if they are human enough and they are believable enough and they can triumph over over something, even if it takes a matter of time, if they're still able to want and need to root for these characters, that's your job, or that's the goal. That's the sole goal.
That should be.
And I mean, look, and we're talking about, in a part of this article, it talks about, the gist is that these guys approach Star Wars from a strategic standpoint, from a bottom line standpoint. Well, if you're looking at the numbers and if you're looking at the trends, who goes to the movies? The majority of people that go to the movies are men. So you want to keep them in that, you want to keep that demographic in place, but just add to it. Do it organically. Make good stories, make good movies. It doesn't matter who the lead characters are. We'll accept them.
I think they think so little of their male fans that, oh, you're just a bunch of man babies. You'll just buy anything that's got Star Wars on it.
But they don't know that we're not. We ain't gonna buy shit that we don't like. And that's anybody.
I know, but
no, for sure. I agree with you. I agree with you.
No, I think
I'm just riding on what you said. Like,
I know.
Going to prove.
Remember what Kathy Kenny
those people. She calls us those people.
I don't feel the need to cater to male fans.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, I watched a few videos on people who aren't even part of the fandom per se, but when they talk about Star Wars, they kind of echo the same thing that the fandom's echoing. They're talking about Star Wars, and they kind of fell off, and and Disney's response has been to blame the fans.
Yep,
that's what they're also surprised at, is that Disney is blaming the fans for what's going on with Star Wars. Well, no, you can blame us because we're not paying for that shit. No. You can do that.
Solo proved that. But I know if we do all this article, we'll be here all night. So there's one more point in this that I think we're going to touch on now, and then we'll get into more of this shit later on down the road, because there's other stuff too we want to talk about, and it'll probably get pushed to the next show. But they go on here to talk about, at least they go to point out, at least not all the criticism took a political bent. I don't think there's the political aspect of it, they're misinterpreting. But anyway, we already covered that part of it. Some fans took issue with The Last Jedi plot, which introduced a new tertiary. How do you say that, Rob? Tertiary. That's why he's the voice of Midnight's Edge. Tertiary characters, and according to critics, dedicated too much time to subplots involving a side trip to a casino and lengthy interludes following a solitary Luke Skywalker living in exile alongside none-like alien creatures. Social media has amplified the fights. Vito Guswaldi, how do you say that, Rob? That's Guswaldi.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't have it on the screen. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, I was like, huh?
I took it off so we wouldn't have the same static shit for so long. But yeah. Vito Guswaldi, is that how you say that?
Highlight. Vito
Guswaldi.
Guswaldi.
Okay, thank you. Social. I see. I at least make the effort to try and get shit right. Vito Gasoldi, a Los Angeles-based graphic designer, produced a YouTube video titled "Why Star Wars: The Last Jedi is a Complete Cinematic Failure." Why didn't they bring up Mahler's video in this? Which dissects what he sees as a narrative missteps in the film. It has nearly 8 million views. And Mr. Gasoldi, you sure it ain't Gasoldi?
Yeah, probably just salty. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds more right. Gisaldi said the ad revenue from his 20-minute diatribe, the movie 20-minute. See Mahler's video. The movie takes one of the most.
It takes 3 hours.
Yeah, right.
I loved it.
6 hours. 6 hours.
Yeah, takes one of the most beloved franchises of all time, throws it in the trunk of a car, and then backs it into a river. Well, that's not inaccurate. Earned him enough money to pay more than a year's rent. See how this is why this is important here, because these are the money people seeing this, and what they're seeing now and they're realizing is they're trying to point and make the finger at us and make us out to be, oh, you guys are just monetizing the failure of Last Jedi, hence that gives us the motivation to do so. Oh, well, guess what? We were here before the Last Jedi existed, and we'll be here long after the Last Jedi. Yeah, long after the Last Jedi is done, forgotten about. So that is kind of a real straw man argument there. If you
that's what they keep saying. I keep hearing this on social media all the time. What are you guys gonna do once if this movie's good? What are you guys gonna do once this movie's done? Oh, we were here with Star Trek before we were here with Star Wars. We're gonna go back to that one, and then we'll be here with Bond, and then we'll be here with Doctor Who and all the other things, and then Marvel Phase 4. So we're not going anywhere.
As long as you keep fucking up, we ain't going nowhere.
Well, if you got good stuff, we'll just make retrospectives and talk about good stuff.
Yeah,
Ghostbusters. We'll be doing breakdowns, top 10s, everything.
Yeah,
I mean, shoot, look at Star Wars Theory. Star Wars Theory does all kinds of, he shies away from going into any negative discussions about Star Wars, and his channel thrives because he really just talks about Star Wars. He talks about, fan fiction. He talks about lore. He goes into legends talk. So I mean, there's plenty of stuff to keep your audience entertained with. But at the end of the day, eventually y'all gonna fuck up. So we gonna get to talk about that again.
Well, yeah, kind of like how things were before Ghostbusters 2016 and Fan Four Stick, because those are pretty much ground zero of this whole thing. If you ask me, I mean, we had garbage before that. Don't get me wrong, but it's garbage in, garbage out when it comes to movies. That's the way it always is, and it's never gonna change.
It's the attacking the fans.
But it's the attacking the fans, exactly. Yes,
and it's the total latching on of how to kind of outlet with social media that. Oh, well, you guys don't know anything. You're not in the business. Shut the hell up.
Well, not only that, if you're going to use social media as a advertising platform, get ready to use it as also a place where we're going to say what we have a problem with. Yeah, I mean, it's just the way it goes. It's just like the argument we got into with Jason Isaacs. Where
I think at the end of the day, it comes down to, again, like he said, they say that we don't know the business, but we are the business. So
we're the reason the business
should go.
Oh, so my money isn't good enough for you then. I will just go elsewhere.
I don't know who
don't want my money.
One of our super chats earlier, he's like paraphrasing Ghostbusters 2, where he's like Venkman. He's like, I'm a moviegoer. Aren't you supposed to lie to me and kiss my butt?
Exactly. Well, and that's just it. Yeah, and to go with what I was saying before about Jason Isaacs and the little fight that Mecca and Rob and I got in with him, and I think Anthony Rapp even got involved, and then. But the whole thing was he goes, we don't understand why you need to, I'm paraphrasing, but why you need to keep telling us what's wrong with the show. If you have a problem with a meal at the restaurant, you don't go yelling at the chef, do you? I'm like, yes, you do.
You do. Exactly what you do.
It's
you
exactly what you do.
Well, and it's
2 stars, motherfucker.
And it's
you're going to check it. You're going to check it before you go to sleep tonight. Go to Yelp, go to Google. Yeah, you're going to see my review there. This food fucking sucks. And the fucking cook is an asshole.
Yeah.
to use the restaurant rhetoric, especially if it's like your favorite place, you do care. You do care if you get bad food because you like that place.
Exactly. And bad service. It's like, I'm paying you and you're yelling at me for me paying you. This is your job.
Exactly.
If I go down to downtown Milwaukee right now, that's where I am, and get a beer at my favorite sports bar, and I get some new girl that serves me, and then I'm just given the cold shoulder whenever I ask for a Coors Light, even though it's busy, and I just get like, I'll get to you when I get to you. I'm like, what the hell?
Tip gone.
Mm-hmm.
Mecca, if Santiago has just suddenly just changed the menu, took all the stuff you liked off of it, you'd complain, wouldn't you?
Well, yeah, especially if they kept the same name.
Hello?
Yeah.
Are you not
Also-
hearing us, Rob?
Exactly.
You're cutting out, Rob.
No. I'm hearing you. Just she took a second to answer. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's like when I always bring up the time where they did that joke commercial where they told people they were taking away the Whopper. You know, look how people reacted because those were genuine reactions. They got pissed, and that's the thing with people. It's like, yeah, we understand it. We do want we want to try new things, and we do want some of the same things, and that's what we like out of our sequels. We like and franchises. We like that comfort zone of, okay, we know what this is. We know it's Star Wars. We know it's Star Trek. We know it's Ghostbusters. Whatever.
It's got to at least be familiar. And that's
Exactly.
why Star Trek fails so miserably. Because you're going in like trying to get filet mignon and you're getting, yesterday's food that came
Hamburger,
back up.
meatloaf.
But
tofu.
Yeah. And you're getting the regurgitation of it. You're not even getting food that's edible.
And that's just it. It's like, okay, we want things to be safe to a point, but we also want to see some new things in that universe or whatever you want to call it. Now, the difference is the disrespect of the old characters, and the thing like Rob keeps bringing up the Fry episode from Futurama, and I always bring up, was it Fun with Weapons or whatever on the South Park episode where it's Cartman's character Bullrock just keeps inventing powers every time somebody else gets a power, he has it too.
Yes.
That's the way these writers work. And then like Rob says, they'll come back at you with this is a fictional universe. It's like, yeah, but it's built on fucking rules.
It's
okay?
the famous
Everybody knows how fucking hyperspace travel works. Like,
right. And when I interviewed Robert Shea, and one thing I've heard him say, not in my interview, but I kind of touched on, and I think it got cut out of the interview though because it was redundant. But one thing they learned with Nightmare on Elm Street 2, and I think I talked about it with the director a little bit, was that they had rules in the first movie, and they went and threw those established rules out the window for the second film. But they learned from that lesson. From that moment on, they said, this is the Bible on Freddy. You do not deviate from this Bible. This is what Freddy can do. This is what Freddy can't do. Because otherwise you get shit going willy-nilly crazy, and you have Freddy showing up at a party with a bunch of teenagers who are 3 feet taller than he is, which is exactly what happened in the movie. So I mean, you have to be able to establish a set of rules for your universe, and Ghostbusters has a set of rules that the remake ignored. The Star Wars has a set of rules that the sequels are ignoring. Star Trek has a set of rules that all the new shit is ignoring, and the 2009 movies ignored. And these things matter to the fans because we go into these stories expecting to see the characters and stuff, but we want to see them doing new things, yes, but you can't just have them all of a sudden going from being a sheepish character in the first movie to Arnold Schwarzenegger in the second movie without some kind of character arc to explain that.
Yeah, exactly. That's the key part. Explain your changes so that they make sense within what we already know.
And I didn't mean to go on that long diatribe, but that's really what the base issue is, and that's where they won't let fans in on these movies and television shows because they're nothing but a problem, and they'll remind you of all the shit you don't want to think about.
Well, it's like with real Ghostbusters, because Ghostbusters got a dish to them twice, where they went against the Bible supposedly. Like J. Michael Straczynski was one of the big story writers for the real Ghostbusters syndication, where before it all got mucked up by Slimer and the Real Ghostbusters. And Q5,
ABC's family,
which
Q5,
good lord. And then if you look at the Bible of how, like, there's some excerpts of how they handled it, it's just like, yeah, there's passion behind this. They've done their character studies. They know exactly how a character interacts with them, with everybody. They know exactly how much time you can have with Slimer before it gets absolutely ridiculous. But again,
I remember the one interview. I can't remember. I think it was one of the producers was talking about. We know what Slimer can and cannot do is exactly what he said.
Exactly. They knew, and then was it ABC's like, well, the show's doing great, but could it be doing better? And it's like, no, you're stupid.
You took the Batman animated series of its time and turned it into Batman and Robin is what you fucking did. Because Ghostbusters, the real Ghostbusters, I knew adults and grown-ups who watched that fucking show when it came out.
Yeah.
It was legitimately scary at times too. Like this was one where one of the rarest times where you could actually have a show and the police are coming to get me right now.
They're coming to get Rob. Oh, they're coming to get you.
Yeah. But
Haha, they're coming to take me away. Oh.
It's not Rob for once. He's doing the happy dance.
Yeah, that's my 10-foot window. Lucky me. But no, it was one of those few moments where in film and television where a parent could sit down with their kids and not just want to hit themselves in the head with a rock for 30 minutes.
Right. And we got to hit the super chat because it does hit on the point we're talking about here. Exactly. Tiberius Monk 84, good friend of the channel. $5. Go ahead, Rob, and read it if you want to.
I'm loving this in-depth talk on Star Wars. Always respect that your passion for Star Wars comes from a place of love and passion, not hate like SJW's claim. No, that's right. We want this to be good. That's the thing. We want it to be good. Austin Trench, random B-movie Megatron toy is going to be shown.
What?
Okay.
What was that?
Wait, as in Jerry Seinfeld B movie?
I think he means Bumblebee movie.
Oh God. Oh. That
I'm making another B movie, and I'm gonna have Megatron in it.
I went to a dark place.
I say you can do a much better one, Rob.
People who watch Transformers. Well, who are these people, and where do they get Transformers from?
Is it a car or is it a robot? They can't make up their minds.
What happens when I leave my sneakers in the trunk? Do they get destroyed? Where do they go? Where do my sneakers go? You're starting to aggravate me, Megatron. Where are my sneakers?
I think
and how do you gas it up? I don't understand.
Does it take unleaded?
Or does it take biodiesel?
Does it eat pizza?
What's the deal with Energon crystals?
Sure, man. It'd be great to have in a traffic jam. He just transforms and he walks right over it. Where do you park the thing? I mean, is he happy just sitting in the garage as a car, or does he want to come in and watch the game with you? It's
Is a car happy with you, or do you need to seduce it?
Is that why you didn't start last week? Is because I was bad mouthing you?
HBO.
They's always saying we need a spark in our relationship. I didn't know it was the all spark.
First time I saw Jerry Seinfeld, he was advertising his special for HBO. Hi, I'm Jerry Seinfeld, and I have a special on HBO. You know what HBO stands for, don't you? Home and BO. Somebody's home and they got BO. If you were 12 years old, you think that's hysterical. But you're an adult, so you think that's stupid.
He is nuts. I love
and everybody wants to get into his car and have coffee with him.
But anyway, we were saying about fans. Remember that whole thing about the super fans guiding Star Trek?
Yeah, they were just there to appease us. They were just there to make us think that they were going to give a shit. And no, we heard through the grapevine a few different times, Rob, that all they were there for was to make sure they didn't go over any grounds they did before. Like to where we didn't have to go, oh, they already did that episode back in, TNG season 6. That's why they were there.
A lot of good that fucking did. They recycled a lot of storylines.
Yeah, they did.
Well, that's because they gave them excuses. And that's where I said that's why they don't want fans working on these things, because they're like, yeah, we don't care. We're just going to do this our way anyway. It's different.
It's the South Park Simpsons did it. Because it's my favorite because what is it? Professor Chaos is just completely devolved with not knowing what to do in a certain situation, and I can't remember who's his little cohort, but he's just like, and his cohort keeps going, "Oh, Simpsons did it. Simpsons did it."
Disarray.
Yeah, General Disarray. That's it. And it's just like that's just it, and then they just give up. No, keep going.
I'm about to ask, are you a Star Trek fan too, or are you just a Star Wars fan?
Nah, I didn't do Star Trek. Not gonna lie. Well, I mean, not that I didn't think it was cool. It's just it started before my time, so I never really caught on to it.
Well, guess what's the surprising thing? Despite what the media will have you believe, we don't judge. It's not that big of a deal.
Well, it's the whole concept, or the misconception is that this is just a platform for us to just hate. And going back to that, but to counter that, going back to that nice little restaurant rhetoric that we used earlier, complaints help build or are supposed to help build something to be better.
Yeah, it's feedback.
That's the whole point. Feedback is supposed to make something better.
Yeah.
That's the intent of criticism. Criticism is supposed to, ensure that something gets, better, and it's supposed to build something off of, like a crumbling foundation and to reinforce it into something that will hold and to be stronger and to be better and to meet the expectations of a fan. Why would you want to go against that? Why do you want, weak films?
But I suppose I don't want to keep everybody so late. We've been going, we started a little late, so it's already getting pretty late for everybody. And I know that we didn't really, I did pop up the rest of your message there, Austin Trench, so hopefully people saw what you meant. And yeah, he did mean a Megatron figure. But you're welcome for that Jerry Seinfeld bit.
Devolvement there.
Devolvement. What's the deal with Transformers?
I was talking to Universal.
It's a robot in disguise. Who is he disguising himself from?
Oh God!
And why is he hiding?
If Jerry Seinfeld were incorporated into the Universal monster, the new monsters, like if he was the Invisible Man, he just never could shut up.
Do I save gas if I just piggyback on him and let him run?
Is it immoral for me to jump into someone's cab even though I'm invisible? I mean, they can't see me, and I'm technically not riding there.
I suppose. I don't want to keep everybody all night long. I've been so thrilled to have Uche here, and of course Matt, as always, to talk Ghostbusters with us.
Yeah.
We've got so much more of this.
Us.
Oh, of course, man. And we got so much of this article to go through, and I'm sure there's going to be some more news between now and Wednesday. We did have some deaths, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to touch on those real quick, Rob. We had a couple from the Star Trek universe, and we had
DC Fontana sadly passed away. Rene Abujana. If you don't recognize the name, he played Odo on Deep Space Nine. He also was Father Mulcahy in MASH.
Yep, and he was also in Police Academy 5 and Benson.
Mm-hmm. And Benson, very long and storied career.
Very prolific character actor, yes.
And Carol Spiney. Now, if you don't know that name, he played Big Bird on Sesame Street.
Oh yeah,
and
that was such a.
Oh man.
And he also did Oscar the Grouch.
Yep.
Yeah, Oscar the Grouch too.
As
yep.
well, yeah.
Which a lot of people have been sharing the the Jim Henson Memorial video where Carol actually sang it's not easy being green at that, and I'm just like, oh God.
Now I'm gonna tell you guys this. I don't know if there's Muppet fans out there. If you have not seen Sesame Street Presents Follow That Bird,
do it.
Get it. It is the Lost Muppet movie. It is amazing. It is better than you could ever expect it to be. It is hilarious. It's heartwarming, and of course, Big Bird is at the center of that film. It's a tragedy that it's not on Blu-ray yet, but I do have the DVD, so it is available on DVD and probably in digital, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And it was not that long ago that he retired from from Sesame Workshop either.
Well, I don't know if he retired. He may have, but they kind of pushed out all the original.
Well, because I thought he wasn't doing well,
that's very possible. I don't want to say they pushed him out per se, but I know I don't think there's all but one original person left,
right,
from the original Muppet people. So yeah.
All right. Well, sadly, like I said,
Frank Oz is still with us, but he no longer is. He hasn't done Miss Piggy or Fozzie in 5-6 years or something like that.
Bumps in every now and then. If honestly, that's really about it.
He hated the new show.
Oh yeah, but Sesame Street, I think he still bumps in every.
Oh, that he might. Yeah, I have no. That he possibly does.
The new Muppet coordination,
because there's a separation now. That's the thing. Is most people. I mean, there never really was a coordination per se outside of just the Muppet players themselves and the fact that the Muppets, did the Sesame Street thing.
Right.
They had the Muppet thing. But now Disney owns the flat out Muppets, but Disney doesn't own Sesame Street or the Sesame Street Muppets.
Which is a shame because we miss out on one of the greatest Christmas specials of all time with the Muppets, the Fraggles.
Now we have a Star Trek separation in the world of Muppets. Because Jim Henson Company doesn't technically own the Muppets anymore. So,
That's a tragedy.
Yeah, they sold them to Disney.
And Disney's doing what with them now?
Same thing they do with Star Wars.
Facebook portal ads.
Yeah.
Kill me.
They're trying to rebuild the brand.
Well, they did the live tour, like it's an international live tour that's been getting raves and reviews. That I'm just like, okay, get him back on TV. Like I keep seeing the occasional like Happy Thanksgiving. They did a Black Friday video on the Muppets YouTube channel of all things. It was like, yeah, that's what I coincide the Muppets with. Black Friday. Although
Yeah.
I would like to see Animal go out on a Black Friday rage.
Buy TV.
TV, PS4.
Where Dr. T's going, well, I told them that I wanted the new base set. I didn't think he'd actually go that far and tear up this whole store.
Like, wow, man.
That's the last time I let Animal loose at Guitar Center.
Beat drums, beat drums.
But no, I just miss the whole, like, because before the Muppets with Jason Segal's The Muppets, I want to make that clear, that movie, the one movie that I did actually like.
It actually had some heart to it
because
Jason
actually
Segel or however you say his name.
like Segel actually cared about that.
Yeah.
Like, again, caring. It shows.
And he lobbied hard to get that movie made.
And he treated the Muppets like real characters, and they had struggles, and I loved that movie does not get enough credit either, but yeah, like I said, as far as Carol Spinney goes though, or Spiney, however you say his name, do yourself a favor if you've never seen that movie, or if you haven't seen it since you were a kid. It's still a funny movie and it holds up.
Actually, and do another favor, check out his filmography. There's a lot. There's a ton of work that he's done.
Oh, I'm sure he worked on all the Henson productions and shit too.
Like, it's just incredible. A lot of these puppeteers, even to this day, like one that I'm very familiar with is Grant Picocho. I can't say his name right, but he did a lot of work on the recent Mystery Science Theater revamp on Netflix, which sadly got canceled. But just a lot of these puppeteers don't get a lot of credit that they deserve. Like, only a few of these puppeteers get that limelight.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. Carrie's. Yeah. We're gonna close this out, but Carrie brings up a good point here. The Muppets are too smart and edgy for Disney. Disney don't know what to do with it. Yeah. See, here's the thing: Sesame Street should have sold out to Disney instead of HBO.
Yeah.
And the Muppets should have been sold to HBO. Because could you imagine them doing a Muppet show on HBO now?
Muppets do Grant. Was it a Game of Thrones?
Well, I mean, you don't even have to go that risque, but I mean, they wouldn't have to worry about adhering to any kind of like
PG-13.
Yeah, PG.
That's what we need.
PG-13.
You need a good hard PG.
You could take it to the way that Jim Henson wanted it to be, because he did want the Muppets to be somewhat risque. He didn't want them to be like full on like
the Muppet Show and between the Muppet Show and the Saturday Night Live Muppet bits. I mean, that's basically where you got to have it, and that's I think that's the kind of tone they were going for with what was it, the Muppet Show, the last one.
Yeah. Well, the Muppet
the ABC show, whatever it was, the Muppets.
The Muppets on ABC.
Yeah. See, they were kind of trying to go with this adult-oriented kind of thing, and they were also trying to capture what Segel did with the Muppet movie by making the characters more characters and not just caricatures.
It's the Muppets at the office.
Yeah, but that was the thing, is you took it too ground level. You went too far down to that level, to where at least in that first Disney movie with Segel, he treated them like characters who have real feelings and emotions and all that kind of crap. But he still kept them the Muppets. Right. They were still the Muppets at heart. I mean, they were still crazy, that kind of stuff. And that ABC show, it was good the first season, and then when they got the new people in it, it really lost its way. So I don't know. I mean, but yeah, we got to get rolling here. Yeah. So we want to thank Uche for joining us. Tell them a little bit about yourself for those who don't know who you are. I can't imagine they don't, but
I am Uche Waneri, the Observant Lineman, aka Darth Slayer, aka Uche Windu. You can go to my YouTube channel at Uche Waneri. It's just my name. Good luck finding out how to spell it. But
I'll try and get the link.
Google me and you can find it, or just type in the Observant Lineman. I think I still come up with that. But yeah, cover a lot of football headlines, a lot of hot takes, and a lot of stories about the football life, a little behind the scenes stuff that people generally don't know about the life of professional athletes. So,
YouTube turned off my bell. Yeah, YouTube turned my bell off on you.
Oh,
I'm still subscribed though, but I'm going to throw your link in the chat there so people can subscribe, and you can see Uche with the guys and gals at Geeks and Gamers too as well.
Yep, I do work at Geeks and Gamers. One video that I'm in particular proud of is my Phantom Menace Origins video. So try and check that out on Geeks and Gamers. Guys, Jeremy over there, the whole team, we're all doing what we can to kind of keep this thing going. I mean, it's we're having an effect. The fandom is really having an effect, and it's not just Geeks and Gamers. It's every part of the fandom. Across pop culture, we're having an effect on them by not giving them our money. So keep going.
Oh yeah, I think we've proved that between JJ dropping the Phantom Menace and this Wall Street Journal article. I mean, yeah, you guys, we have a lot more stuff to dive into this. So do join us Wednesday night. We will have Annie Trekker with us. Matt, we want to thank you for joining us. Hopefully, school keeps you busy here in the next few months after Christmas, and then by the time you're done, you get a Ghostbuster movie to enjoy, I'm assuming.
Oh, that'll be a great graduation.
All right. Well, hopefully it's good, and we hope to have you back a little bit more then, and we'll try and see what we can work out there and all that kind of stuff. And of course, do check out Mecha Random as always. She is the Queen Harpy herself.
I tried. New video premiering now. I sorry, I thought we were gonna be
that's
done.
all right. We're wrapping up. But other than that, Rob. So do check out Mecca's new video, and then when you're done watching her new video, go check out our new Ghostbusters video if you haven't yet.
That's right.
So other than that, Rob, cue the music.
Yes, everybody, thank you for joining us. Like, subscribe here in the main channel, Patreon, Subscribe Star, PayPal, blah blah blah. We'll catch you next time.
Hey, good morning. I'm Krispy Kreme McDonald's.